Good evening to every one of you. I am Prilisha Miley on behalf of the Premier Educare Institute. Welcome for an important session on the quantitative research approach. For this workshop, we have with us Dr. Engineer Priyantha Morapitia, who got his first bachelor's degree in engineering from the University of Moratuva in 1992, his second degree and his first master's degree from the University of Yokohama in 1996, his third degree and his second master's degree in business administration from the University of Kelaniya in 2012, and finally his fourth degree, Doctor of Business Administration from the University of Kelaniya in 2020. He is not a big academician, but a practical businessman with vast local and overseas experience. Dr. Priyantha is currently working as a part-time lecturer at ICBT, ACBT, IMC, and ANC, which are prestigious institutes in Sri Lanka. Apart from visiting lecturing, he also serves as a council member of Sri Lanka Standards Institution. Dear sir, over to you to share your practical knowledge. Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome to the most important session, that is the quantitative research side, right? Okay, as Felicia said you very clearly, this is one of the most important session for you. I will tell you why and how. According to the statistical data, we have some students who have already completed their research. Some has already started. Some are yet to start. I am telling you very clearly, if you have already started, these steps you have already followed knowingly or unknowingly. If you are going to start from now onwards, definitely you have to follow these steps, one or maybe little bit different. Anyway, you have to follow these steps. Okay, so please remember, and those who have already done, please make sure that you have followed these steps, right? Okay, and today, so the session will be run until 10 p.m. I will try my level best to finish somewhere around 9:30 or 9:45, right? Okay, so today's session we have two sessions, session number 1 and the session number 2. So somewhere around at about 7:30 you will get a short break, just about 15 minutes. 15 minutes because I have a lot to cover within this 4 hours. So remember that you are getting your short break at about 7:30. So please make sure that you are having a cup of water with you. And if you, I'm sure that most of you are in your home. Some students in Abu Dhabi, 1 or 2 people in Oman, and some in the Bangladesh. Most of you are in Sri Lanka. So whether you are in office or in home, make sure your safety, health, and please ensure that you are having a cup of water and inform to others that you are having some problem. Okay, that's all about the security and health measures. Now let's go to straight away for the session, right? So roadmap for the quantitative research. So I will be starting straight away about the subjects that we have to follow, that we have to cover, right? So please bear with me. I will take you to the destination very, very clearly. Okay, I'm sure and I know that most of these things are available in the Google. Okay, so no issues in that. But the thing is you don't know what to follow and what not to follow. So I will be very clearly telling you what you should follow. So therefore, so now after you clearly watching these things, then you can understand what you have to follow basically. Actually, I'm not telling you what you not have to follow, because everything is a very, very important, but most important thing is what are the things that you have to follow. That will be covered within this 4 hours for the quantitative research, right? Okay, what is the research and why research? This is a very, very important, very, very important. As I told you very clearly, I have somewhere around 60 slides, altogether 80, but I'll be trying to cover 60 other things. I am just passing because they are straightforward, so you can easily read and understand. So most important 60 or 60 plus slides will be explained here. Okay. So what is the research and why research? So if you check in the Google, you might get plenty of definitions for these, right? But according to the Sekaran and Booji 2017, they have given a very good definition. What's that? Right? So I hope that everybody can hear. So if you are not here, not hearing, please let me at the same time when you are having some questions, please write it here. Okay. So then I will discuss while I am continuing the program, or at the end of the session, I will answer for your question based on this session. Okay. So please remember. So if you have any issues that has to be cleared while I am lecturing or while I am reading, please write here. Then I will explain you. But please remember, the time is the most important one. Right? Okay. Right. Okay. Now, based on the Umasekaran's definition, the research is organized. That means it is a very well organized, systematic, that's in order. Database, yes, that means you have to collect the data. There are so many ways and methods of collecting data. Database, critical, yes, it's a very serious. That means you have to do it critically because we are going to get some conclusions. So based on your conclusions, management will take the management decisions. So therefore, this is a very critical. And objective, yes, definitely. Why? That means you are supposed to go for some known and some crystal clear objectives. And it is scientific, yes. Why? You are using statistical techniques to analyze your data. So therefore, it is a scientific inquiry or investing into the specific problem. That means the specific problem undertaken with the purpose of finding answers or solution to it. So this is a definition given by the Sekaran and Booji 2007. So you don't have to memorize these things, but you have to understand why research. What is the meaning of research? Okay. So this is one of the best definitions. There are so many shortened and long definitions, right? Okay. So why you are doing a research? This is a very important. Why? Actually, now you are doing research. Why? Because you want to complete your PhD, master's, or the undergraduate degree. That's it. Very simple, no? But basically, you are doing a research most probably when you have problems, right? Sometimes you don't have any problems to be solved immediately, but you have to improve the existing situation. This is a very clear. Okay, please understand, because if you ask from someone why you are doing research, then they will definitely tell you we have some problems here, therefore we have to do some research to solve this problem. That's one side. The other side is no problems to be solved immediately, but you will have to improve the existing situation. Okay, so this is why I am mentioning red color. Remember why you are doing research and what the research is. Research is a organized, systematic, database, critical, objective, scientific inquiry. So this is a very long, but it's a very nicely articulated definition by the Sekaran Booji. Okay. Now, why you are doing the research? To find the problems immediately to find the solutions of your own firm or the organization to give the immediate solution. That's a one side, one aspect. The other one is definitely you don't have any problems, but you want to improve the situation. Okay, right. I will tell you how and why. For example, right? Say Google, IBM, Apple, Samsung. So they keep continuing research. Why? Do they have any problems just after they launch their new products? No, but they want to improve it further and further. And after 4-5 years, after intensive research, they will launch another product. So they do. So here they don't have any problems at the moment, but they want to improve the existing product. So please understand why you are doing research. So other bullets I am not going to explain, very straightforward. Normally when you are doing a research, when you have one or two or more of these statements, right? That is what is given in the last bullet, right? Okay. So please remember what you meant by research and why you are doing a research. Remember the points very clearly, right? I'm sure that most of you, if you are asked why you are doing research, then you will simply tell you that when you have the problems, you have to give some solution. For that, you have to do research. That's a one aspect. The second one is equally important. That is, you have to improve the existing situation. You don't have any problems at the moment, but you have to keep on researching. The best example is Google, IBM, Toyota, Tesla, or wherever. For example, easy to understand example. Assuming that the Toyota company launch their new Toyota Prius car, maybe tomorrow. So what will happen to their research works on the Toyota Prius? Will they be closed tomorrow? No, they will keep on researching in order to improve up to the next Prius level. So please understand why you are doing research. Okay, right. Okay, now the types of research, there are a number of types of research, but I have given some important one, some basics one. So out of these 9, so I am going to explain only about the first 6 type of research. So please remember, even in these 6 type of research, I will just run through why that is not that important, and you can simply read and understand. Okay, right. What is the exploratory type research? That means when you are supposed to do a new research or the brand new research which has not been done previously, or some researchers have done it, but you don't have a lot of information in your hand. You understand the point? Clearly understand. Exploratory means you are exploring, right? You are exploring. As the doctoral students, MPhil students, DBA, PhD, so definitely you are supposed to do exploratory research. That means you will have to do a new research. That new means that may not be totally new, but very rarely done, very few done, and you have information in your hand, only very few information. So please understand the exploratory research. That means you are diving into the deeper and deeper, right? The purposes, the second bullet says, the diagnosing a situation, screening alternatives, discovering new ideas, produce hypotheses. So I will explain all these things, right? So now you understand the exploratory research means, that means you have no a lot of information in your hand when you are starting your research, and you are supposed to explore and find new ideas. So this is the type of research the doctoral students must do. Please understand. I know that there are more than 50% doctoral students here. Please remember that your research is exploratory type research. Okay, right? And then the descriptive research. This is something which so you are not supposed to ask the why question, right? Not why question. You are just trying to find out the information, how, what, when, and where. You are not analytically asking the why question. So please remember the difference between the first one and second one. This is the descriptive type research. For example, you are going to do some descriptive analysis. You are not going to ask why, how much, what is the impact. No, just trying to describe the things. Remember that one. This is not that important, right? Okay. So the exploratory type, all the things are very clearly given here. So I am not going to read each and every statement. So please remember that in the exploratory research, yes, you are supposed to ask the why question. Why it happened, how it happened, when it happened, what happened. All the questions are you are asked. So then what is the difference between the exploratory and the explanatory? What is the difference? Yeah, here is not that exploratory type. That means you are doing researches, others have also done in the same area. The exploratory or the first means definite, it is almost brand new, almost. That means some people have done, but very rarely, very few. Explanatory is also the same, but you are not exploring in that level, and others have also done. Here you are asking the important analytical question, why? But the previous one, you are not asking the why. If you go to the previous one, you can see this one, you are not asking the why question. Okay, but here you are asking the why question, right? Okay, so please remember these differences between the first three. Very, very important, right? Now, the next one. Comparative research, I am not going to read. Comparative means you are going to compare between two or more groups. For example, the economy of Sri Lanka, India, and Bangladesh. You are supposed to compare the economy of these three countries. That is coming under the comparative research, right? I will later explain how you have to do. So please bear with me. Please stay with me. You are learning today the map, exactly how you have to go to your destination. So definitely, if you followed these steps, you are in the driving seat. So take my words, please. Okay, right. And so the analytical research is the correlation research. What do you mean by that? Correlation means, so you are supposed to analyze, or you are supposed to investigate the relationship between the two factors. Relationship, right? Here you are not going to ask why, what, how, when. No, you are just trying to understand whether there is any relationship between the two factors. This is also very, very important, right? Very important. I will later explain you the example, right? Okay. So next one is the applied research. Yeah, the in the first bullet I have mentioned the red color. Applied research means a scientific study and research that seeks to solve the current problems. That is, you are having some problems now, so you are supposed to find out the solutions for the current problem. For example, I'm sure that everyone remembers very well. In the last 2 years, we had some very bad condominium, corona. So by that time, everybody tried to do the researches on the corona, to cure the corona, to control the corona, but now not doing like that. So that is coming under the applied research. For example, when the rains, even in most of the countries, so we are having dengue problems, right? Then, so the researchers want to do some researches on how to control the dengue. So that is only in that time. So that kind of researches are called applied research. But as I told you very clearly, the doctoral students and the MPhil students, you are supposed to do the exploratory research. That means you are supposed to find out the answers. What is the best out of best? I will explain you later, right? Okay, the next one. Right now, I have already explained the most important one. So out of that, first three is the very important. But anyway, so you are supposed to compare two or more means by using ANOVA. I will explain you later. For example, you are supposed to compare the English knowledge, the mathematical knowledge of the English medium class, and between the Sinhala medium and the Tamil medium. For example, you are having three classes, three grade 10 classes: English medium, Sinhala medium, and then Tamil medium. And your principal wants to know which medium is much better for the mathematics. So that kind of researchers are coming under the what do you call that, the differential research or the comparative research. Okay, now we are on the track, qualitative and the quantitative, right? Qualitative means very simply based on the quality. quality. Quantitative means based on the quantity numbers. For example, first bullet, the purpose, answer why question, why, right? When you come to the quantitative, answer the how much, how many, how much, right? So that is what that by the numbers you're supposed to answer by the numbers, how much, how many. So this is the first difference between the qualitative and the quantitative. Okay, right. Now the next one, the data type. Okay, so data type means when you are doing the quantitative, numbers and the statistical results. But in qualitative, observation, symbols, words, no numbers, numberless, very easy to understand, right? And the approach, yes. How do you do the quantitative research? You have to measure and test. Measure, right? Measure. Measure means numbering. For example, you are supposed to measure the length. You are supposed to measure the weight and then test. That is quantitative. Qualitative means you are observing. For example, buyer behavior, voters behavior. In these days, everybody is in Sri Lanka talking about the elections. So now you are supposed to investigate the voters' behavior. How, right? Not the why, not the numbers, how. And then interpret. And based on your observation, you can say something. You can say something. For example, you can say that in this time, the Sri Lankan people are not that interested in elections because of this economical and crisis. So this is based on observation. You are giving some interpretation. That is qualitative. Quantitative means you are measuring the numbers, right? You are counting the numbers and then you are testing them. So the final one, analysis, yes. When you are doing the quantitative research, you are supposed to do by using the statistical analysis. I will explain you at the final slide of the today's session. What do you mean by the statistical techniques, right? So the qualitative, there are a number of qualitative techniques which I am not going to teach today because today's session is the based on the quantitative research. And remember, sometimes you may be having quantitative or qualitative or mixed, right? Remember that point also. Okay. Now you understand the quantitative means purely based on the numbers or the quantity, and you are analyzing your data by using the statistical techniques. Only those two you have to keep in your mind. I am now sure most of you have already started your research. If it is now it is almost quantitative. Now you know my research is the quantitative type, or my research is the qualitative type, or my research is the mixed one. Okay, remember. Right now, what is the next one? What is the next one? The research strategy, the qualitative research and the quantitative research. I already explained you qualitative, what I mean by qualitative and what I mean by quantitative. Okay, so please remember the basic difference between in the quantitative research, you are supposed to analyze your data by using the statistical analysis, which is very, very easy. Right? So don't worry about it. So don't think that I did art stream, I did the commerce stream, I did the bio stream. No, you don't worry about that. These are very straightforward, very easy. Only thing you have to learn systematically and scientifically from the very beginning. Okay. Qualitative, I'm not going to explain once again. So remember the features of the quantitative research, which will be covered within the next 3.5 hours comprehensively. Okay, right. Comprehensively, you have to cover the quantitative. Now, please check the head-to-head comparison: quantitative research versus qualitative research. Okay, so the quantitative research means the findings are descriptive in nature. Descriptive, that means you can generalize things. The qualitative means no, it is subjective. That means for you, it is a one observation. For me, it's another observation. For the third part, it's another totally different observation. That is what is meant by the subjective. Number two, findings descriptive, empirical, and generalized under the quantitative. That is the most important feature of the quantitative research. In other words, if you want to do a national research, if you want to generalize your finding, then you have to go for the quantitative research. And number two, head-to-head, very difficult to generalize if you are doing the qualitative, right? And the number three, research methods include experiments, survey techniques, everything is there, right? So under the qualitative, the main research method consists of in-depth interviews, right? Semi-structured interviews, because you are getting information, right? Because you are getting information, okay? So you are not calculating, you are not counting anything, okay? Remember that point. Number four, enumerators need not to be highly trained. That means if you want to collect your data, you can get someone's help, right? Because you are developing your questionnaire, so you can ask someone to collect on behalf of you, right? But if you are doing the qualitative one, no, you should go there and you should be highly trained. You should, even if you are going, you should be highly trained how to get the information, right? So the number five, so normally marketers, so if you want to do a national research or the marketing research or whatever, so the quantitative research are the ideal, and you have to do a quantitative type research. And another important character, so when you're doing the qualitative research, sample sizes are very small in general, right? So that is why it is difficult to generalize your findings. Why? Because you are having only 50, 60 samples, right? But when you are doing a quantitative researches, it may be 300, 3000, 2000, 500, 200, like that. So the sample sizes in the qualitative research are very, very small. Why? You can understand why. Because you have to go and get the information by yourself. So how can you go for a people somewhere around 300, 400? Can you go? Right? You can't. It's very difficult. Remember, so quantitative types and the qualitative, but sometimes you have to do the quantitative, sometimes you have to do the qualitative, sometimes you have to do the mixed research based on your research question. Your research question means about what you are supposed to investigate. So based on your research question, that research question, that will be decide whether you have to go for the quantitative or the qualitative, right? Remember, so if someone asks from you, which is why you are selecting quantitative or qualitative, then you have to say that based on my research question, I will have to go for the quantitative. Based on my research question, I will have to go for the qualitative one. So please understand about that very, very clearly. Okay, right. Right. So this is a research onion, originally developed by the Saunders et al. 2017. So this is the path that every quantitative researcher has to go. Okay. So I already told you, so many students have already started their research. Some have already finished. Some are going to start. Some will start in the future. But this is the path you have to follow. Remember, now, doctoral students, now check your documents whether you have completed these steps systematically and scientifically. Remember. So I will explain all these steps very clearly. The red steps have to be followed basically. Yes, what is the first one? Ontological position. This is a little bit technical. Philosophical understanding, don't worry about that, right? The representationalism, then it is positivism, deductivism, survey, cross-section, finally, data collection. So all these steps will be comprehensively explained within the next 2 hours. So don't worry about that. And as I told you repeatedly, I will be taking you to the destination. I'll be taking you to the driving seat with confidence and confidently and comfortably. So remember, those who have already started, you have to follow the red arrows, and those who are going to start, you have to follow the red arrows. And even in the undergraduates, this is a very good academic investment for you. So one day when you're doing your master's, when you're doing your doctoral degree, or when you're doing your own undergraduate degree, so you have to follow these steps. But for the undergrads, this the number one, that is ontological position, this is not required for you. But the PhD students, you must explain your ontological stance. You must explain your epistemological stance. You must explain your methodologies. You must explain your axiologies. That is for the PhD students. Master students up to some extent, but my students, because you are now participating for this comprehensive session, so you will be learning all these things, and therefore you have to include all these things in your masteral degree, right? Then your supervisors, your panel will understand that you have followed the steps very, very clearly, systematically, and scientifically from the very beginning. Okay, right. So research audience, so if you have any problems, you can ask, right? You can ask if you have any problems. There are power cuts even here. Power is not there, right? So we will be using some alternative methods to get the power. So in Sri Lanka, a lot of areas having some power cuts, so don't worry about that. I will be trying to give you the recordings after the session, maybe tomorrow, day after tomorrow. Definitely you are getting. So please stay with me. I will be teaching everything in the comprehensive manner. Now you understand the research onion. Please, doctoral students, if you have already started your research, you have to go by these red arrows. Those who are going to start your research, you have to go along these red arrows. So remember the point. I will be explaining all these steps one by one. Okay, right. Right. So this is the roadmap for the quantitative research. Now we are going to swing. Right. First, you have to identify research problem. That means the government wants you to do a research on this problem. For example, how to resolve this economic crisis, how to bring some dollars into the country. So that research problem will be given to you by the government, maybe by your institute, maybe by you own. So that, of course, you have to understand first what is the question. So okay, thank you very much. Right. And so first step is you have to identify your research problem. I will later tell you how to identify. Remember that I will have to cover 80 slides within the 4 hours time. So therefore, I am trying to run through some slides, and I am trying to explain some important slides. Please bear with me. So next is the scientific literature review. This is a very, very important, right? Very important. Yesterday, I got a call from a overseas. He has already developed his conceptual framework. Unfortunately, he does not know how to do it. Actually, that is not his fault. Only thing is he was not explained how to do it. So today, today I will be explaining how to do it. So don't worry about that. Those who have not got any previous knowledge how to develop your conceptual framework, I will be explaining. So please stay with us until we complete this session, right? So the scientific literature review, very, very important to do the theoretical justification and the empirical justification. I will tell you why and when you need the theoretical justification and the empirical justification. The third one is a very, very important, developing the conceptual framework and the framing hypothesis. Yes, please remember, I will tell you again in the future. So in a quantitative research, the conceptual framework is the heart. So therefore, your findings and your results rest on your heart. That means your conceptual framework. That means you have to develop your conceptual framework systematically and scientifically. Remember the point very clearly. I will tell you later, my friend coming from overseas. Please Listen to me, right? And the scientific research design will be explained later. Data collection methods, yes. Data analysis, very comprehensively. And finally, report data and interpret and compile. I'm not going to discuss this session, this one today. So remember, my dear ladies and gentlemen, so when you are developing your research proposal, you have to give some summaries on all of these bullets. Especially, you will have to tell your sampling method, data collection method, and importantly, data analysis method. Importantly, I will repeat that word. For example, sometimes our students have developed their conceptual frame very big, very complicated, very confused, but they don't know what kind of data analysis techniques that they have to use. They don't know, right? They don't know. So remember, when you are developing your conceptual framework, you must know what kind of statistical technique you have to use. Remember that point. Otherwise, later you are in a trouble, right? Otherwise, you will have to. So when you are developing your conceptual framework, you have to have some based articles which has used similar kind of conceptual framework. Read that paper not in full, but only in the abstract and the methodology part. They in those two parts, it is very clearly mentioned what kind of data analysis techniques that they have used. So therefore, it is very easy you to understand what kind of data analysis technique you should use. Otherwise, you are in a trouble. I am also in a trouble. So remember, these are the points that you have to follow, right? Again, so this is what we are going to discuss today within the next 3 hours. Okay. For the newcomers, I'm telling you, we are having the 2 sessions. First session will finish somewhere around 7:30, and the next session, the second session will start immediately after 15 minutes. Remember, 15 minutes means 15 minutes because we have to cover a lot, right? So we have already discussed, and I'll be explaining again and again, right, when we come to the real area. So if you have any questions, any issues based on today's session up to now, so please ask, please text the message, or now or later, right? So the quantitative research, again, for the newcomers, I will be explaining. The based on the broader problem area, below step should be decided. What do you mean by broader problem area, right? Broader problem area means, for example, if you want to find some solutions to the some problem, so you will have to understand the context. That means the broader area, right, which causes to that particular problem, not just symptoms of the disease. For example, if you want to find out some medicines to some disease, you should treat not to the symptoms but to the root cause. To understand the root cause, you have to do a full scale diagnosis. Full scale. That means doctor will tell you, you have to get a blood report, you have to get some some scans, you have to get some urinal report, and you have to get some other report, and you have to get some heart, that angiogram, or lot of things you have to understand. Maybe not necessary, but the doctor will tell you because he needs this diagnosis. So that is what is called the broader problem area. Finally, through the broader problem area, you are narrowing down to your particular problem. So having diagnosed all your, these reports, then the doctor will decide what treatment is best for you, right? So that is, finally, you have to narrow down to your research problem through the broader problem area. So therefore you have to understand the broader problem area, right? For example, maybe internationally, maybe locally, maybe in the other business. For example, you assuming that you are doing a marketing research, assuming that you are doing say employee retention in the garment industry. So if you want to do a research on the employee retention in the garment industry, you have to study about the global scenario about the employee retention. And then you have to study about the local scenario, employee retention. And then you have to study about the other areas, not only the garments, maybe other companies, other technical based companies, like why then only finally you have to come to the garment industry. That is how you have to study about the broader problem area and finally narrow down to the your research problem, right? Okay. So the next one is identify the variable. This is a very important. I will explain you. So yesterday I saw, I'm not going to show again and again. So dependent variable is your research interest about what you're supposed to investigate, about what given to you by the government, about what given to you to investigate by the NGOs, your research interest. Okay. So the independent variables is the factors affecting factors. What are the factors affecting to the bank satisfaction of bank customer? What are the factors affecting to the purchasing intention of the mobile phones, purchasing intention of the hybrid vehicle? What are the factors? They are called independent. The moderating and the mediating will be explained later. So remember, this is a very important. So based on your variables, next is you have to develop your conceptual framework, the research. This is a very important, right? I'll explain you. And then ontology, epistemology, methodology, axiology, these are coming under the philosophical assumption. So you don't have to worry about that. I will explain you so that every one of you can understand. So don't worry about that. At the moment, just listen to me. Ontology, epistemology, methodology, and the axiology, right? So don't go after the big words, right? The next bullet, operationalization table, is very important. So again, I will explain it later. This is a very straightforward, and all these steps should be followed by you if you are doing a quantitative research. Remember, so when you are following these steps, you are in the driving seat. Simply, you can do your research without any problem. Remember, if you started your research, if you are going your research systematically and scientifically from the very beginning, you are done. Otherwise, definitely you are in problem, right? Why? Because you don't know what to do and you don't know what not to do, and you have no idea about how, about which is to be started first, which is started next. So, but in this, if you follow this approach, no, maybe not mine, but maybe from other books, you are done. Okay, right. Now, operationalization table, this is a very important that I'll explain you. Then the planning the data collection is very important. Data collection. Now, everything now you did, you developed your research problem, you identified your variables, you developed your conceptual framework, you explained your what do you call that, philosophical assumptions, bullet number 4, and then the operationalization table, you explain that one. Now you have to plan how to collect your data and the type of data collection methods, right? Okay. Now the next bullet, developing the research instrument, how to measure your data. This is a very important, right? Everything you can do as I explained you from one bullet to the last bullet. I'm not the last bullet up to this bullet. So you did everything, but you don't know how to collect your data, how to measure your data. That is very important. I'll explain you. And then 2 terms, reliability and the validity, very important, right? So if anyone asks from you which is most important, it's a very difficult question to answer. I'll explain you later, right? The one before the last bullet, preparation of the sampling plan, very important. How to do the sampling, right? So I'll explain you. And finally, the deciding the techniques of data analysis by showing the meta-analysis. So this slide will be discussed somewhere around 9:30 today. It's very important. So all these steps will be comprehensively explained today. So please bear with me. I will take you to the destination very clearly. Okay. So in the meantime, if you have any issues, if you have any problems, if you have any anything you can't understand, please ask. Okay. Right. Now the broad problem I told you very clearly. Your first step is you have to develop your research topic, how to do how to develop your research topic. Yes, the bullet number 1 says research typically begins with a problem. Typically, what do you mean by typically? That means I already explained you at the very beginning. You are supposed to do a research to find out the solutions, the answers to the existing problem. That is it. Bullet number 2 means no, you don't have any problems at the moment, but you have to improve the existing situation, right? For example, the company wants you to do a research to improve the existing situation. Production is okay, right? Production rate is okay, but they want to improve, they want to increase the product rates, right? So that's a research. The other research is the production rate is very poor. So that means you will have to find out immediately solution for that problem. That is bullet number 1. Bullet number 2 is no, production rate is okay, but the company wants to improve it further and further, right? Bullet number 3 says, what's that? Yeah, the same thing, right? Okay, I already explained you about the Toyota Prius. Assuming that the Apple company or the Samsung will launch their next Android phone tomorrow. So immediately after, will they close their research department? No, they will keep on researching. Why? For the next model, next product. So remember why you are doing research. So you have to understand the broader problem area, right? So that is, if you are in the medical field, that the doctor wants to investigate about the entire area, not just the final disease. After, I mean that having identified, having diagnosed each and everything related, then he will understand about the disease and how to treat for that one. Not immediately he will, all right, you are having blood sugar, you are having this, what you call that, this, you are having some heart problems. Okay, I'm treating for that. Or no, then he will be missing a lot of things. So therefore, you will have to understand the broader problem area. This is very easy, right? I cannot explain everything here. The thing is that you have to understand the context, problem context. That means what happened, when happened, why happened. In other countries, in this country, in our company. Then you are narrowing down to your own problem. That is what is called the problem statement, right? So remember, so if you want to do a research, there should be a research gap. Research gap means, for example, I mean that you want to increase your product rate up to the 100. Now it is 50 is gap. So you have to fill that gap 50. If there is a no gap, that means you are getting your products output at the rate of 100. Right, that is also your given target, then there is no research. Okay, so remember, when you are doing a research, you have to have a gap. So you have to understand whether there is any gap or not. Okay, right, we'll go. So define the research problem. So I'm not going to read one by one. Research topic can be initially derived from the research problem. Yes, first you have to understand the broader problem area. You have to explore, right? And then you have to understand the research problem. Then you have to derive your research topic based on your research problem. See how it goes. The research topic is based on your research problem. Research problem is based on your broader problem area. Okay, so that is how it goes. Yeah. The second bullet. Research problem exists where the research gap prevails. I already explained you very clearly. So if you want to do a research, there should be a research gap. Otherwise, no meaning. No meaning means you are duplicating the things. That means someone has already done. You are also doing the same thing. So that is, you are wasting your time. You are wasting your resource. You are wasting your money. You are wasting your knowledge. Right? So if others have done up to this level, you have to continue from that level. That means there is a gap. Then you have to go for that. I'll explain you later. Simply the gap means between the actual and the desired, that I already told you. For example, assuming that the sales representative is doing some sales in a particular area. So he is given a target of 200,000 per month, right? Unfortunately, due to some this financial conflicts or financial problem, is able to get only about 150,000. So then his given target is 200,000, but he can manage up to the 150. So there is a clear gap. Desired state is 200,000. His actual is 150,000. So there is a clear difference between the actual and the desired, which has to be filled by you as a research. If he's getting 200,000 or near, there is no research. Okay, right. Bullet number 4. Research problem refers to some difficulty need which researcher experience in context of the either theoretical practical situation. Yeah, that means there may be some theoretical or the practical situation you want to obtain solution for the sum that will be discussed under the theoretical gap and the practical gap. So remember how to define your research problem. Definitely you should have a research gap, right? So how do you understand research gap? You have to read the literature and again read the literature, then definitely you will be able to understand. Right? So when you are reading some articles based on your own research problem, you will see how they have identified the research gap. Then very simply you can identify by reading them. It's a very simple thing. Only thing, you should know what you have to do. That is my target. That is my objective. That is the whole objective of this session, is to teach you how to go to the correct, how to go learn the correct path, right? Then you know what to do, because you can say that, yes, that Morapitia said that I will have to find out the research gap. Yes. Then you are reading what is the research gap, and then you are trying to understand how the others have found their research gap. So this is it. So I'll be taking you to the correct path and you have to follow it. Then you are done. So don't worry about that, right? Okay. Right. The next justification of the research problem. That's very important, right? Why? Because now based on your research, I mean that broader problem area, you identify the research gap. Then you identified, you investigated, and you explained, and you got some information about the broader problem area, right? Then finally you narrowed down to your problem statement. I'll explain you later. And then you got your research problem. Now it's okay. Now you have to justify why you are doing this one, right? Because it should have a social impact. It should be appreciated by the others. It should be required by the government. It should have some social impact. That means it should be timely important. Otherwise, why? There can be a lot of problems in the world, but you will have to identify which is most important, which is least important. Then that's how you have to justify your research problem, right? Okay. Okay, Mr. Marwan, thank you very much. Right, you are coming from Abu Dhabi. Okay, I'll explain you. Right, I'll explain you. So this is a very important question. How to find out the research gap? Right, I'll explain you later. Right, that's a good question. Thank you very much. Okay, now you have to justify why you are doing this research. As I told you very clearly, there are so many problems in your department, so many problems in your organization. Then why you are doing this problem, this particular problem? You have to give enough justification on why you are doing this research. Okay. The second bullet, the research problem can be justified through the research gap. So you have to show the research gap. For example, easy to understand example, you are supposed to do a research in the area of employee retention in the garment factory, right? So garment factory or whatever you can assume, right? So now you can understand how about the employee retention in the UK, Japan, USA, and you have the clear idea about the employee retention in these countries. So these are very big countries. So now you come to the India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and you try to understand the employee retention in those countries. And now you have the employee retention in the developed countries, employee retention in the other Asia countries. Now you have a very clear difference. Now you come to the Sri Lanka and to your own company. Now you can see the difference. That's the gap. That's the gap you have to fill. So you will not be able to come to the Europe level. At least you should be able to come to the India, Pakistan, Bangladesh level. So that's the gap. That is how you have to understand the gap. So to understand the gap, you have to read the literature. So you have to understand based on your research topic. That means your research topic is what are the factors affecting to the employee retention in garment industry, employee retention. Then you have to read the articles based on this, right? Then you can understand the gap. Then you have to understand in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, in India, UK, they are about their employee retention. That is what is called gap. They're not easy straight away. It's not easy, but you are doing a PhD, so you have to read these articles very clearly. Remember, when you are doing the research, right? Quantitative research, you have to type what are the factors in the Google link or browser. What are the factors affecting on the employee retention in the garment industry? That is how you have to. Then you will get a number of articles. If you are not getting articles, that means you have typed mistakenly, or what you are going to search is not that important. So if you type a very good researchable question, you will get a number of articles within a fraction of a second. Right? How to type factors affecting to the purchasing intention of the alternative vehicle, factors affecting to the heart attack or whatever, factors affecting to the diabetes. So remember, so you will have to type in this way. Then only you are getting the quantitative research. Otherwise, you are getting qualitative research. Then you will see you can't understand. If you are doing the quantitative research, you have to get the quantitative research articles. What are the factors affecting? What are the key determinants? Or the impact of, right? Impact of this is how you have to find out the related articles. Okay, right. Now the third bullet says the research gap is the research question of the problem which has not been answered appropriately or at all in a given field of the study. What is that? Bullet number 3. Yeah, the research gap means the people have not answered properly, appropriately, maybe half, maybe 75, or not at all. That is the gap. That's what meant by the gap. That means the people have done only half, right? Or else they have not done at all. But I will tell you very clearly. So whatever the research type you are going to, definitely that might have been done by someone before. Otherwise, it may not be that important. So remember that point very clearly. Okay. Right. Theoretical gap, empirical gap, practice gap. Yes. Okay. That's good question. Aloka Mendes again from the overseas. That's I will be explaining. That's very good. Very good point. Thank you very much, Mr. Aloka. Right. Okay. And then now so the research gap. So I'm not going to explain this one. Right. Okay. Because this is not, number is not in the red color. Okay. Types of the research gap. Yeah, these are the gaps. As Mr. Alok said, philosophical gap. That means about the philosophical something that is not that important, right? Because if you are doing the quantitative research, your philosophies are confirmed, constant, which not varying. What your ontological stance is representationalism. I'll explain you later. Don't worry about that. Then your epistemological stance is the positivism. I'll explain you later. And your methodologies are, I will tell you. So these are very important and very common for the quantitative research. For example, your name, right? Your name, your date of birth, that will never be changing. That will be never be varying. Even you are in the Oman, even you are in the Abu Dhabi, even you are in the Bangladesh, wherever you go, your name remains unchanged. Your date of birth remains until. That's how your philosophical understanding, philosophical concepts will not change, right? If you are doing the quantitative research, so you have to write all what I am telling here. And of course, right now I am telling you your ontological stance, then you can read some articles, you can say, you can check in the Google, then you can develop, yeah, you can expand. But most important thing is you should know what you have to include, which will be explained in this session, right? After that, you can take, for example, now you know these are the gaps that you have to understand. Then now you can check it. What are the theoretical gap? What are the knowledge gap? What are the practice gap? What are the methodological? Now you can check in the Google, right? So please understand. Theoretical gap means, for example, there are some theories, but no any theories explaining about your problem, your issues. That is what is called theoretical gap. Is it okay? Is it clear? Theoretical gap means there are some lot of theories. For example, theory of planned behavior, social exchange theory, social entity theory, threats theory, and path goal theory. Lot of theories are there. Theory of reason and action. Lot of social science theories. I know here we have some engineers, doctors, lawyers. Remember, don't mix up these scientific theories with these theories. These are social science theories. There is something like Newton law, Archimedes, Faraday. They are different, right? They are not changing never. I mean here these social science theories, something like theory of land behavior, theory of reason and action, social exchange theory, and social entity theory. There are a lot of number of theories, but no any theory is describing your problem. That means there is a theoretical gap. Very simple, it is not there, so don't worry about it. The knowledge gap, under the knowledge gap, this is a very, very important. Why? The literature gap or the empirical gap, Mr. Marvin, from, right? Please understand, empirical gap means what the others have done, what the others have not done. So you have to read articles about what the others have done. Then you can write that these people have done up to this level. They have not investigate about these things. That is why I am doing it. That is what is called empirical gap. What the others have done and what the others have not done. So I am going to investigate what the others have not done. So this is very easy, right? So please understand. So don't go after these big words, right? Simply you might be scared of to listen these words. The empirical gap means you are just reading some articles, so they have investigated about one factor. You are investigate about the other factor. So that is the gap. Why? That person, that particular scholar has not investigated the factor that you are going to investigate. So that is what is called the gap. For example, sometimes some people have done the same research in the say about in the Middle East area, but not in Sri Lanka. There's a gap. Why? In Sri Lanka, nobody has done. Right? But remember, doctoral students, you can't do like that. So you have to do a brand new research. It should not have been done anywhere in this planet. But don't worry about that. You can manage it. I will explain you how to manage. Right? The methodological, the practice gap. Yes, what the practice gap means? This is a very, very important. Why? I told you many times, the employee retention in US is a very high. In the Pakistan is a somewhat, in Sri Lanka is a very low. So we will have to bring up to at least up to the Pakistan level. That is what is called the practice gap. So now finally you have to give some solutions. You have to some recommendations as to how you have to bring up to the Pakistan level. Maybe we will not be able to go for the USA level at this time, but at least up to the Pakistan or the regional country. That is what is called the practice gap. This is a very, very important for you guys. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please remember, out of these 4 gaps, the practice gap is the most important. Why? Because you are not a scholar. So you are not a concerning about the theories, right? So theoretical gap is out, not out, right? I mean, when compared. So the empirical gap means why What is the use of whether others have done or not? No use. Only for this report you have to understand. So, but for you, the practice gap is the most important. The methodological gap means what are the methods the others have done, what are the methods that you are going to do. So that is what is called the methodological gap. So important gaps are theoretical gap, empirical gap, practice gap, methodological gap. Out of these four gaps, most important gap is the practice gap, right? Okay. So if I get a few research articles for research problem from the Google Scholar, does that? No. I can't say like that. No. I just said, but if your research interest is appreciated or the required or the very important, definitely you might get a lot of articles. Sometimes you may have not typed correctly in the Google, then you are not getting the correct lot of number of articles. Remember, but that does not mean that your topic is not that important. But basically, please understand that you have to do a research which has articles. Otherwise, you are in the problem. I will later tell you how and why. Right? Okay, Ms. Chandima. Remember the straight away. Okay. No, the PhD level you have to discuss all about gaps. Or the research gap, theoretical gap, empirical gap, practice gap. Definitely you have to explain all these about. But that depends on your supervisor. That depends on your university. That depends on your panel. But definitely you are supposed to find out the gap between all these things. That's there. That's 100% guaranteed, right? Okay, could you please explain the philosophical gap? I will explain you later, right? And remember, that is something like your name, because if you are doing a quantitative research, your ontology is fixed, not changing, and your epistemology is fixed, not changing. So therefore, you have to write down what I have written here. You have to get from some article. So that is constant. I will explain you later. That's a good question. Okay, right. We will have to go. Okay. The types of the research gaps, right? So the theoretical gap, I am not going to explain. So please read this very simply, easy to understand. There are some theories, but no any theories to explain your problem. Not any theories to explain your conceptual framework. That is what is called theoretical gap, right? And then the literature, the empirical gap. Yeah, empirical gap means what the others have done and what the others have not done. Definitely you have to write pages and pages about this. Why? Because as you know, when you are doing on the doctoral or master students, you will have to make some page requirements. So you will have to, you will have to have somewhere around, for example, 150 pages. Then how do you increase the number of pages? By using the literature review, the second chapter. Second chapter means this. So you will have to increase the number of pages in the literature review. You have to write down these empirical gap a lot. Read articles. No need to read hundreds of articles, right? Just 5-10 articles, more than enough. Okay, I'll explain you later. Right. So practice gap, this is a very, very important. That's why I have marked here this number. You can see only these thing only, right? If I only this, right? If the number is red color, I am explaining here. This is very, very important. Other things you can understand by just reading these things. Okay, please understand. I am explaining only when the number is given in the red color, right? Okay, it's very easy, right? What is the question? Can you please show us a simple sample gaps or as per the written then some exclusive? Okay, I will send you later this data, right? Okay. And first I have to finish this one. The gaps, of course, Mr. Mahaman, you have to read the articles, right? You have to read the article, then you have to understand what the others have done and what the others have not done. I understand your question. I will tell you how to develop your conceptual framework. Please stay with me, then I will show you. Okay. Right. So the introduction, now we come to the main thing, main area. Why? We have to understand how to develop your conceptual framework. This is a very, very important, especially for the doctoral and the master students, especially. PhD students, Please, this is for you exclusively, right? So dependent variable, very simple. What is that? This is your research interest about what you are going to investigate. That should be given by your department, by your organization, by the NGO, by yourself, based on your research interest. So I am not going to tell. For example, so I am a car lover. So I did my research on the hybrid vehicles. So what are the factors affecting on the purchasing intention of the hybrid vehicles? So my research is the purchasing intention of the hybrid vehicle. That is my interest. So that is my dependent variable is the purchasing intention of the hybrid vehicle. So for example, if you're in the HR, so your problem is about the employee retention. So that is your research interest is how to manage the employee retention. What are the factors affecting the employee retention? Your research interest is employee retention. If you're in the bank sector, maybe your interest is how to retain the bank customers. Your research interest is how bank customers, how to retain the bank customers. Right now, you understand the dependent variable. Now, what is the independent variable? It's very straightforward. For example, so when you want, I know that every one of you loves to have a car. So what are the factors? What are the factors you are looking for when you're going to buy a car? What are the factors? They are called independent. For example, right, like Asian people, we are concerning about the price, resale value, spare part prices, and beauty and speed. A lot of things are there. So these are called the independent variables. Okay. So what is the moderating variable? This is the very important. And what is the mediating variable? This is the once again very important, right? I'll explain you when we come to the conceptual framework. So now you remember the dependent variables are very clear. It is your research interest about what you are going to investigate, about what you are supposed to give. Okay, yeah, that's okay. That's money. That money is coming under the these financial benefits. For example, if you want to buy a vehicle, so in my research, I'll explain you what are the factors that I look for: financial benefits, luxury benefits, and environmental benefits. So like that, you have to identify your area. I'll explain you later. Right now, good. Okay, now I already explained dependent variable, independent variable. What do you mean by moderating variables? A variable that has strong contingent effect on the between IV and DV. Don't go after these words. I'll explain you in the next slide. So what is the mediating variable? It's very, very important. Mediating variable means, again, another independent variable type of, that is, they are in between independent and the dependent variable. I will explain you there. So there you are having the full mediation, partial mediation, and no mediation at all. So I'll explain you. Okay, don't worry about that. Right? Okay. So we will be having our interval after another 10 minutes time. Okay, right. Now, so I explain you DV and IV, but I did not explain moderating variable and the mediating variable. Okay, now let's go there. So remember, I told you very clearly, the conceptual framework is the heart of your quantitative research. Okay, right. So this is it. What is your research? This is a research which is given in the many books. So you are supposed to investigate about the child reading ability. Child reading ability. These kind of researchers were given by the NGOs. For example, so they want to improve the education level of the poor students in countries like Sri Lanka, right? So they want to understand about the child reading ability. So that is your dependent variable. Then what are your independent variable? What are the factors to affect into the child reading ability? So definitely socio-economic status. That means the students' homes, financial situation, or the social situation. If the parents don't have money, they are in the problem. If the parents don't have a home, that's a problem. If the parents are living in a noisy area, that's a problem. If the parents have the money, but the parents are not there at the home. So they are maybe father is in overseas, mother is in somewhere else. So these are the factors. A lot of factors are there. Out of these factors, I selected only one fact. What is that? Socio-economic status. That means the social status and the economical status of that particular house. That's a one fact. There are other factors there as well, right? Okay, so now you understand the independent variable, and your dependent variable is very clear. What is that? Child reading ability. That should be CRA, not the CRB. That's wrong. Okay, so remember that one. So these abbreviations are very important. Why? So when you're doing your research, you are not writing all these long names. You have to give some abbreviation, but which should represent the original name. For example, child reading ability. It should be CRA, not CR. That's a mistake. Type in mistake, right? Sorry. Social status, SS. There is a no hard and fast rules as to how you have to write, but that is the common sense. Because you are a big people, you are the assets. So you have to write down very clearly. Again, now I will come to the moderating variable. Moderating variable means it is coming from the outside, which tries to modify the original relationship, right? If you go to the definition, moderating variable that has a strong contingent effect. That is, contingent means it is changing on the relationship between the IV and DV that might be positively or negatively. For example, so here noise level is modifying the relationship between the SS and CRA. Modifying. Sometimes that may be decreasing the relationship. Sometimes that may be increasing the relationship. Remember the point. Remember the point. It modifies positively or negatively. Remember that point. Noise level, right? So remember, these things are very easy to understand. You can say that what this Moropiti is saying. When the noise level is high, definitely the students can't study. That is your own understanding. That is your gut feeling. But remember, some students are living in the churches, temples, or the before the church, or the before the mosque, or before the temple. Every day they are experiencing a lot of sounds, but they are studying well. So therefore, you can't say like that. You have to show these things by research. So noise level is a moderator variable, which is sometimes helping to increase the relationship between the IV and the DV or decrease. Remember the difference between the mediator and the moderator. Now I am coming to the mediator. What is the mediator? Yes, very, very important. Now your research is CRA. CRA means child reading ability. You are supposed to investigate about the child reading ability as given by the say about the government education ministry. Okay, so that's your research interest. That's your DV. Now you IV, only one factor you identified for the time being. For the time being, socio-economic. There are so many, but for the time being, easy to understand. You identified this is a one factor. Okay, right. Now what is the mediator? This one is the mediator. Parents' education level. Yeah, that is very correct. Why? In Sri Lanka, I don't know about the Bangladesh or in the Dubai, I don't know. But in Sri Lanka, we have some myths, long-held myths, right? Why? If the students' parents are educated, definitely their students are educated much better. For example, I think you must be agreeing with me. If the parents are teachers, their kids are educating well. So we have something like that, but you can't say like that. You have to prove it. You have to show it by research. That is it. Parents' education level is a mediator, right? That is not like the moderator. If you check the moderator and mediator, you can see how the moderator is shown. That is coming from the external side, but the mediator is within the conceptual framework. Sometimes you have it is not easy to determine the moderator and the mediator variable. Is this correct? Yes, I will explain you. Wait, I will come to that area. You are asking very good questions. Thank you very much. and write this one, write this one. So you are having this path. Okay, and we are having this path. But this one is, you are having only this path. This is coming from the outside. Outside. So what do you mean by this time? This path means, so the students are studying when the parents have a good education. So that is a mediating. Yes, yes. But this H1 means, no, you don't want parents to be educated, but the students are educating well. That's correct. Because in some what do you call that, some boys homes or girls homes, hostels, they are living with the they are parents less. They don't have parents, but they are studying well. So you can't say like that. But that has to be shown by using the research. Okay, that's a good research. Why? Okay, now H1. H1 is, this is a relationship is significant or not. This H3 means, yes, there is a mediating effect. That means, yes, when the parents are educated well, the kids are educating well. That's okay. But sometimes this H1 is insignificant. That means, yes, definitely parents should be educated, otherwise kids are not educating. That means that is called fully mediation. Why? The direct one, this is called direct. This is called direct. This is insignificant. You are significant only this one, right? Only this one is significant. That is called fully mediation. Why? Fully mediation means, in order to kids to be educated, their parents must be educated. That is what is called fully mediation. Then what do you mean by partial mediation? Yeah, that means H3 is also significant. H1 is also significant. That means, yeah, no problem. Sometimes, even if the parents are educated well, the child's are educated. Even if the parents are not educated, child's are educated well. That is called partially mediation. And then what is the third one? No mediation. No mediation means this, clear everything. So this part is out, right? This part is out. This part is out. No mediation at all, right? That means parents' education is not important at all, right? So that means, so parents can educate without their parents' support. No, not necessary at all. So that means only the H1, that is called no mediation at all. Now you understand the mediation concept. Okay, so please remember, so this is little bit tough when you are studying first time, right? You have to understand, right? The parents' education and the moderator. Moderator is something different, totally different. Okay, we will be having our interval within another 5 minutes time. I want to explain these things again in the next one. So now I hope you understand dependent variable, that is the research interest of you, given by the government, given by your organization, or given by your own interest. The socio-economic status is called independent variables. That is the factors affecting to the kids' education. How many factors are there? Right? Parents' money, parents' education, the home situation, and the parents' availability, lot of that. Moderating variable is a totally different one. And the median is again different. Now one question, one student asked, how do you identify these variables? Yes, that is very, very important. Okay, I'll explain you. So the hypothesis development, yeah, again, the same thing. Direct hypothesis means this one. So this is direct hypothesis, right? This is called direct hypothesis, right? This is called direct hypothesis. Direct hypothesis. This is moderating hypothesis. This is again direct hypothesis. So this is, what is that? How to show that one? This is mediating hypothesis. Okay. Now you can understand H1 means there is a relationship between CRR and SS. That is H1. In the second conceptual framework, yes, there's a relationship between the CRA and SS. That is H1. What is H2? H2, you are saying like this. You are explaining. You are interpreting like this. Moderating. This one. Noise level significantly moderates the relationship between S and CR. So that is how you are interpreting the moderating effects, moderating hypothesis. I will explain you later what is the hypothesis. Okay, right. And we will be having our interval at exactly at another 10 minutes time, right? Okay. So moderate. So this is how you are supposed to develop your hypothesis on the moderating effect. See, so now you can see this is your IV, this is your DV, this is your MV. How to say? The noise level significantly moderates the relationship between SS and CRE. If you come here, you can see, right? And there are two ways. This is English, so I'm not going to explain, right? This is English. That means you can say in the, for example, socio-economic status, SS has significant impact on CRA. In the same hypothesis can be explained. There is a significant impact of SS on CR, that is English. In English, you can say in the two patterns. Now you already understood how to say the moderating hypothesis. Now what about mediating hypothesis? What is this one? This one, how to say? So this is your mediator. What is that? PEL. Okay. PEL significantly mediates the relationship between the SS and CRA. That is a one way, or in the other way, you can see that there's a significant relationship of, there's a significant mediation of the PEL on the relationship between SS and CRA. I told you, you can say either ways. So when you read some articles, you may understand this is very clear, but you have to understand what is direct hypothesis, what is moderating hypothesis, what is mediating hypothesis. Okay. So any questions, please? This is a very important, right? You can ask. This is a very, very important. Right now, it is not easy to determine moderating. Yes, very correct. It is correct. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. So this is the hypothesis formulation, right? Hypothesis formulation means, I already told you very clearly. There are two. There is a one, but I wrote it in the two ways. But remember, for the time being, only one way, right? Hypothesis should be tentative, falsifiable, and testable. What do you mean by tentative? You all know it is a temporary. It's not a forever and ever. Falsifiable means sometimes you get a positive answer, sometimes you get a negative answer, right? Testable means yes, you can test it. You should be able to test it. Otherwise, it's not a hypothesis. Okay. Now check the second one, blue color one, right? What is that one? No, hypothesis can be there even in the qualitative one, but basically, so these hypotheses can be analyzed by using statistical techniques in the quantitative method. You can have it, right? You can have it anywhere. Qualitative research only, even the qualitative you can have, but not the numbers, right? Okay, right now, what is the next one? Right, check the blue one, the second one, check number 1, 2, and 3, right? Okay. Number 1 is, it may rain tomorrow. It may rain tomorrow. Number 2, it rains now. Number 3, God created world. Say, number 1 is a hypothesis. Why? It may rain tomorrow. Maybe not. You can test it. If it rain tomorrow, you can say that hypothesis is correct. It's a tentative. Why? After tomorrow, it is no longer. We are discussing about that. That's it. It rains now. Is it a hypothesis? No. Why? Because it is already raining. Nothing to test. Nothing to falsify. Why? Because it already rains. Whatever. It is tentative. It's correct. Why? Because after rains, it's over. But it's not a falsifiable. Why? It already rains now. Right? So the first one, it might rain or not rain. It could be falsifiable. Testable, yes, it is raining. Now you can test. So see the difference between the first and two. The second one is not falsifiable. That is not a hypothesis. What about the third one? If you check in the Google, this is one of the most important hypotheses in the world. God created the world. Just don't mix up with the religions, right? There's a huge world accepted might that the God created world. That is a hypothesis. Why? You can't test it. It's a hypothesis, but you can't test it, right? Whether it is a correct or wrong, you can't test it. It's not a tentative, so that's not a hypothesis, but it's a hypothetical statement. So out of these three, only number one is the coming under the hypothesis. Now you already understood how to test the hypothesis, right? So very simple. You have to collect the data. I will tell you how to collect the data and just put into the SPS or any other software. Check the p-value. If the p-value is greater than 0.05, you can say that there is a no significant relationship or otherwise insignificant, right? It is called null hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis is yes, there's a significant relationship or there's a significant difference. Why? P-value is less than 0.05. So that is called H1. So now what do you mean by H0 and H1? Okay, what do you mean by? So very simple terminology, right? So take this one. Now you understand how to check the significance. Just check the p-value in a SPS, right? If it is less than 0.05, yes, relationship is significant. If it is greater than 0.05, the relationship is insignificant. Right now, what do you mean by H0 and H1? Right? H0 means the hypothesis smoking does not significantly cause the cancer. Does not. The negative statement is called H0. The positive statement of the same statement is called H1. Smoking significantly causes the cancer. That is what is called H1 or the alternative hypothesis. Now you understand the null hypothesis means the same statement but in the negative. Alternative or the H1 means the same statement but in the positive. Right? Now you understand the H0 and the H1. Okay. So now do you want to check both H0 and H1? Do you want to test? Please answer yourself. No. Why? If you toss a coin, you will get either head or the tail. You are not getting both. Like that. Once you put all these data, very simple. If you join with me in the next workshop, otherwise you will have to learn by yourself. So once you put all these data into your SPS or wherever, so you have to check it p-value. If it is a less than 0.05, then it is significant. If it is greater than 0.05, then it is insignificant. Now I hope you understand. This is very important. If you didn't understand, please ask me. Right? Okay. So now very clear how to develop your hypothesis. So this is it. This one. So this one. So you can see I have not written the H0. Why? I told you you are supposed to find out only the H1. Right? If the p-value is not less than 0.05, then H1 is rejected. H0 is accepted. Either you should get the tail or the head. If you got head, then the tail is rejected. That's it. So you are always discussing about the H1 or the alternative hypothesis. Now you understand how to check the hypothesis development, right? Okay. So this is a very important. I will stop from here. So the outcomes of the hypothesis testing. So now you understand the H0 and the H1, right? Now what is this? Type 1 error and type. This is a very important, very difficult to understand. You can ask from someone, they will not tell you the real answer, but I'll tell you my students. Ladies and gentlemen, please understand the type 1 error and the type 2 error. Type 1 error means very simple. Type 1 error means, I am not going to read out this one. For example, you are having, right, you don't have corona, right? You don't have corona, but falsely or the erroneously, the lab tests say that you have corona. So that is called type 1 error. Why? So you don't have error. You have to accept that. What is null hypothesis? Null hypothesis. Now this hypothesis is you have corona. Right? That is alternative hypothesis. Null hypothesis means you don't have corona. That is negative. So if you don't have corona, your null hypothesis should be accepted. No, that you don't have corona. But according to the test results, you are having corona. That means you are rejecting the null hypothesis erroneously. That is called type 1 error. Then what is the type 2 error? Actually, you should have accepted it because you don't have corona. That is, then null hypothesis is correct. H naught is correct. But you are, but erroneously, falsely, you are saying that you are positive for the corona. That's a mistake. That is what is called type 1 error. Then type 2 error. Type 2 error means you are having corona, right? So you have corona. That means you should accept the alternative hypothesis. Why? That you have the corona, but you are rejecting it. You accept the null hypothesis this time. That means even if you are having corona, the test says that you don't have corona. Erroneous. That is type 2 error. So please understand this one. If you didn't understand, I will explain you again. So simply follow this, read this slide, then you will understand, right? Okay. And so normally the people are not interested in teaching these things. Why? It's a bit technical, but I want to tell you. Now understand type 1 error. Erroneously, you are rejecting null hypothesis because you don't have corona, but you are saying, research saying that you are having corona, positive. That is called false positive. Type 2 error means, oh, you have corona, but the test says that you don't have corona. That is coming under the type 2 error. Okay, so that's all about this one. Now this is the meta-analysis, very important, right? Very important meta-analysis. What is the table number 1? Whether you are doing the master's, undergraduate, or the PhD, you should have this table. That is the operational definitions. I will later tell you. The operational definitions means now you know about the mediating variable, moderator, independent variable. You have to give the definitions for all these variables in your literature part or maybe in the methodology part, depending on. That is what is called the operational definitions. For example, just check 2 or 3 articles. So if they have investigate about your variables, they have defined this one. So you write down the same thing here, but you have to give due reference to them, due respect to them, right? Otherwise you get caught to the plagiarism. Remember that one. So that should be there, right? So the number 2, table number 2, yes, that is what I already told you. You have to support empirical. That means, for example, your research, you have to say that these 2 people have done the same thing. These 2 people have the little bit same thing. These 2 people have done the same thing. There are a lot of people have done. So you have to prepare that table. Number 2, undergrads, masters, doctors. Doctoral students, please, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, you have to prepare all these 4 charts. Undergrads, definitely you have to prepare 1 and 2, maybe not 3. What is the 3? Here's the theory. I'll explain you later. I will show you how the theories are important in the next slide, right? Maybe after the interval. So that means in the conceptual framework, there are 4 or 5 variables. All the links should be theoretically supported. All the links. Whatever the arrow you are drawing in your conceptual framework should be theoretically supported. That is given in the table number 3, and all the links, all the relationships given in your conceptual framework should be empirically supported. That is given in the chart number 2. Okay. So then what is the chart number 4? This is a very, very important, my dear ladies and gentlemen. What's that? Yeah. Okay. So when you are developing your research proposal, you have to tell your sampling method, data collection method, data analyzing method, research instrument. Everything you should show to your panel or the supervisor. If you are doing systematically and scientifically, you should show. And also you are our students, you are students of the Premier Education Institute. So therefore, whether they asked or not, you must say that means you are very confident about what you are doing. So you can say these are the authors did the same research. So their research approach is survey, their research instrument, how did they collect data is using questionnaire, their data sample size is this one. Importantly, how did they analyze? The final one, the analysis model, the covariance based, all this will be explained later. So this table should be there. So I got a lot of questions from my students. Sir, how do we analyze our data set? Then I am asking, did you already develop your, yes, sir. Data collection? Yes, sir. Now you can't ask from me. Now you can't ask from anyone. So before you do everything, you should finalize what kind of data analysis techniques you are going to use, what kind of data collection method you are going to use, what kind of sampling method you are going to use, what kind of research, everything you should decide before you finalize your research. This is a very, very important. If you didn't understand, please ask. Okay, right now, conceptual framework. Okay, now we will be, this is in my watch, it is about 7:45. So we will be having exactly after another 15 minutes. And please remember, please keep in mind, now you are almost in the swimming pool. Now you have to swim after this one, because now you are in your heart. Conceptual framework is your heart. That is why I'm giving you now. Okay, we will meet exactly after another 15 minutes time. Okay, thank you very much for listening to me. Good evening and welcome once again to the most important, the second session. Okay, thank you very much for listening and for being with us. Now I already explained you about the meta-analysis, right? Now all these tables are very, very important for the doctoral students, and all 4 tables must be completed by the doctoral students. And first one is especially for everybody. Second one, especially for the undergrads, masters. Third one, again for the first 3, but the final one, importantly for the doctoral students. Please remember, this is a very, very important. So even if your supervisor did not ask this table, please present it, because then they will understand that you have understand the concepts systematically and scientifically. Okay, so that's very important. Right. Now the conceptual framework, I am not going to explain one by one, right? And simply I will go there and I will explain. Go there and I'll explain you very, very comprehensively, right? The definition is given according to Malhotra and Agrawal, right? First bullet says, in the conceptual framework, you are testing the variables among your test discusses the relationships among the variables under the given context. I will go there and explain you. In the bullet number 2, that is something like this, right? Meta-analysis is not mandatory. That will give you an extraordinary value addition to your research proposal. Extraordinary. So then your supervisor, your panel will understand that you have done the job correctly. It's not a mandatory. Please understand. But definitely it should be there. Then they will understand. Sometimes you don't want to put the tables. You can just give as the paragraphs. But the best way is the meta-analysis. Okay, right. Good question. Bullet number 2. Yes, the testable hypothesis. Now you know what you mean by testable. You know, no? Because the goal created the world, but you can't test it. That's not a hypothesis. But in the conceptual framework, all the relations should be testable. I'll explain you there. Bullet number 3, right. Hypothesized relationships can thereafter be tested. Yeah. Now, based on your conceptual framework, you are forming your hypothesis, and all these hypotheses should be tested by using appropriate statistical. And what do you mean by appropriate? Why I am giving extra weight for that word? Because you have a lot of statistical techniques. You have to give them most suitable technique. I'll explain you later. The next bullet, the entire, very important, I already explained you, my ladies and gentlemen. Again, the conceptual framework is the heart of your quantitative research. That's therefore, you have to develop it. You have to develop your conceptual framework using the real facts and the figures. Why? It is your heart. Your entire results depending on your conceptual framework, right? The last bullet says, The conceptual framework should be well justified, theoretical and empirical. I will tell you how and why, right? That's there, right? So again, here, the same thing. Bullet number one, I'm not going to explain all these things though, even though the number is given in the red color. To identify the variables, I'll explain you. Define the variables. That is the, what is that? Chart one. You have to give the operational definition. Bullet number three, theoretical and practical definitions to the variable. That's also good. Number four, identify the clearly explain the relationship. Yes, very, very correct. Number five, it's a very, very important. Very important. Why? I have not marked the red color. I'm sorry. What is that? I told you very clearly, each and every relationship should be theoretically and empirically justified. Sometimes you may not have the theories to justify. In that case, you can rely on your own sights and the experience. Remember, that is only when you don't have the theory, but basically you have theory. Remember that one. According to the Sekharan and Buji 2017, you can rely on your own insights and ideas, but remember, most of the times you are having the theories even though you didn't see. Remember that point. So you can't say straight away, go and say to your professor, sir, I didn't find any theories to relate this one. I'm sorry, sir, I don't have. So can I rely on my? Then definitely he will say, no, just read and read and read. Definitely theories are there, right? Only in very rare cases you might not have theory. Finally, develop your conceptual framework. That's very clear. Right. Now I will take 10 minutes to describe this conceptual framework. Now you can say, right, okay. So to develop this conceptual framework, I use three conceptual framework. This is my own conceptual framework. I use three research articles. The conceptual frames are given at your right side. So these are the base articles I use, not many. Now I will tell you. So what is your dependent variable? I'm taking 10 minutes to explain this one, right? What is your dependent variable? This is your dependent variable. That is your research interest. Okay, it should be clear. So what are your independent variables? That is factors. What are the factors? I remember one student said that, yes, money. Yes, money means financial benefit. That is coming under this utilitarian motive. So this is it. This is my independent variables. 3. Hedonic motives mean the luxury factors. For example, the people like Messi, people like Ronaldo. So when they want to buy a vehicle, are they looking for the financial benefits? Are they looking for the environmental benefits? No, they need super luxury factors. High speed, low noise, aerodynamic shape, and very high quality sound. So these are the factors they are looking for. But the people like you and me, when we are going to buy a vehicle, we are concerning about the financial benefits, utility benefits. That is coming under the second IV. Third IV, when I am doing this research in the Norway, America, Japan, Australia, or Middle East, so these people are concerning about environmental benefits much than the others. So if you did this research in the Norway or Norway, Sweden countries, something like there, so they are much concerned about the environment than Japan as well. So remember, so these are the 3 independent variables. How did I select? That's the question. I selected these 3 variables reading critical literature review. I reviewed literature critically, and selected these 3 variables. Okay, so how? That's the point. So I saw too many conceptual frameworks. They have identified their own IVs. No son, no daughter, you can't. Right? Whatever the independent variable should be identified through critical literature review, and you should give the reference for that one. Hedonic motives, I will tell you the reference. Utilizing, I will tell you the reference from where I got. Sometimes you are writing, this is my own experience. No, you can't. Maybe you are having it, but how do you know? How do you supervisor know that you are telling truth or not? So therefore, IVs should be selected, identified through the critical literature review. Okay, remember the point very clearly, please. Right now, the mediator. So where is my mediator? So this is my mediator. Okay. So how did I understand this one? Again through the critical literature review. Again through the, you can see if you check this area, this conceptual framework. This is mediator. This is mediator. This is mediator. Right? The same mediator is there, but in a different name. See how nicely I have justified my mediator variable. The same variable, but given in the different names. Okay. So where is your dependent variable? That is of course given by your country or given by your government or given by your department or by your own interest. This is your dependent variable. Purchasing intention, the same, but in the different names. I'm not going to explain. Same, but in the different name. Now, where is my moderator? Right? Where is my moderator? Ladies and gentlemen, this is my moderator. It is not there. Out of these three, if you can check, moderator is not, that is the newness of my research. Nobody has tested this consumer innovators. So that is why I am, that is my newness, because others have not done. So that is my newness. Now you understand about IVs and mediator and moderator. Now, how did I select IVs? Through the critical literature review. How did I select my mediator? Through the critical literature. How did I select the moderator? Again, through the literature review, but not here. It is not here, right? If you check there, it's my moderator. This one is not here. Sorry, this one is not there. Okay. Now please understand, that is my newness that I got from other articles. Maybe from other conceptual frameworks not related to the HVs, hybrid. All these three conceptual frameworks are related to the hybrid vehicle purchasing intention. See how nicely I justified my variables. Is it okay? Or anyone, you want me to explain again? Right? Please understand. Now, what is the next thing? Next thing is we are going up to the 10 o'clock. Okay, please be with me. Right? So now you understood the IVs, yes, factors. You have to identify through the critical literature review by your experience. So you can say that my professor said, my supervisor said, Priyanta Morapitia said, no, you can't. You have to have some proper empirical justification. That is what is called empirical justification, right? What's the question? If I have the time, beg your pardon, sir, could you explain how this H1 and H2 included? Yeah, H1 is a simple direct hypothesis. I will explain you later. That means this is the professional way of writing. Actually, H1 coming under three. H1A, H1B, H1C. What do you mean by H1A? Hedonic motives have direct relationship between the PI. H1B, utilitarian motives have the direct relationship with on the PI. H1C, environment motives have the direct relationship between PI. So I have given in the next slide. That's a good question. Now, what I want to tell you something. Now, this is your develop conceptual framework. So you have to develop this one properly, nicely. So now you understand how to identify your variables by using critical literature review. Remember the point? So you can't say my students, my son coming from overseas. So you can't say because due to my experience, due to my knowledge. No, you can't say. You have to justify from where you got these variables, from which country, who are the authors. Remember the point. Mediator, yes, definitely, yes. You have to show like this. Okay. So moderator, it's not here. That is the newness of my research. I took it from other articles, right? Okay, now I want to tell you, I will just remove these things, all these things. Right, okay, clear? So now please, okay, now I want to tell you. So now you know how to find out your IVs, MV, moderator and mediator through critical literature review. No other way. And importantly, so when you are identify your variables, even the moderator, mediator, or IVs or DV, remember you will have to find these scales to measure them. So these are it. You should have this one. These questions to measure, these are called the scales. Otherwise, you are in trouble. Okay, see this one. See this one. Right? In some articles, it is given. The some articles, it is not given. So if these scales are not given, don't take that variables. You have to go for another article where these scales are given. Remember this point very well. Okay? Even in these two articles, the measures are given, not included here, but given. Remember, every article it is not given. So now I have 6 variables. So to measure all these 6 variables, I should have these scales marked in the purple color. Remember that point. These are called scales, indicators, or items. That means to measure the purchasing intention, you should have. To measure the HM, you should have. To measure the UM, you should have. To measure the EM, you should have. To measure the CPV, you should have. To measure the CI, you should have. Otherwise, you are in the trouble. Remember, when you are developing your conceptual framework, ensure that you have scales to measure them. Is it okay? If anyone did not understand, please ask. That is a very, very important, right? H3, can you explain? H3 is a mediating hypothesis. There is 3 years, I will explain you, but that is given in the next slide, my son. H3 means the attitude. Again, there are how many? There are 3. Why? 3 IVs are there. That means again H3A, H3B, H3C. What is H3A? CPV significantly mediates the relationship between HM and PI. Similarly, you have H3B, H3C. Likewise, you have all the other hypotheses in the next slide. So please visit that one and see it, right? Now, what I wanted to tell you, you should have the scales to measure your variables. Otherwise, you are in trouble. Remember, so when you are showing this conceptual framework to your panel to defend your research proposal, they are not concerning about this. They are not asking. This is your own job. This is your own responsibility to have the scales to measure. Otherwise, at the last stages, when you're collecting data, you will have to reverse it. You will have to go back and find these scales. So remember that point very well. If anyone did not understand, please ask me by your WhatsApp message. I'll explain you. Okay. So that's how you are developing your conceptual framework. And remember, so all these arrows you are marking here, for example, here, right? I am not showing this one. If I so then I will have to take a lot of time, right? But I'll be finishing at 10 o'clock. So here, this H2 means this one, this one, this one. Okay, H2A, H2B, H2C. Similarly, this H1 means, right? H1 means this one you can write down like this. The unprofessional. 3. There are 3. H1A, H1B, H1C. Very unprofessional. So I'm not writing like that. So these 3 are, you have to write nicely. What about this H5? The same way. H5A, H5B, H5C. See the slide, it is very clearly given there. Now it's okay. Now you have marked so many arrows. Please remember, each and every arrow should be empirically justified. That means you should have previously done research. Doctoral students, I am talking to you. Okay. Every arrow you are drawing here should be empirically supported and as well as theoretically supported. That means you should have theories. For example, to connect this HM to CPV, you should have theories. Right? So according to the Heckler et al., they say that if you don't have a single theory, you can use multiple theories, maybe 2 theories, but don't go more than 3 theories. Maximum 4 is enough. But sometimes some people might go 5. Some people say that going more than 3 theories are not professional, but that's up to you and your supervisor and your panel. Anyway, you should justify your conceptual framework, all the relationship empirically and theoretically, right? Theoretical means you should. Theoretical means in the meta-analysis, chart number 3. Empirical means in the meta-analysis, chart number 2, right? We have exactly another 1.5 hours to go, another 20 slides. Okay, is it clear, anyone? Right? Now I already told you how to develop your conceptual framework systematically and scientifically. So whatever the variable you are identified should have a scales to measure, valid scales, right? Sometimes if you don't have scales, no option, then you will have to develop the scales by your own. That is another mini research on your big research. Remember the point. That is again a mini research that of course you can do. I will tell you how to do it, but that is becoming another headache. So therefore, please try to identify your main variables with the scales to measure. So definitely sometimes you may have to write the authors because they are giving their email addresses. Then they will send it to you. So you can do like that. Okay. No need to purchase. Oh, don't spend your money on these things. There are a lot of articles, right? Sometimes in the Google score you will not get. But when you go to the Emerald site, when you go to the Science Direct, when you go to the Cambridge, Oxford, you might have a lot of articles, right? So remember, when you identify your variables, scales must be there. Be careful. Or even if you have already started doing your research, if you develop your conceptual framework, make sure that you have valid scales to measure all your variables. Right? That's enough, I think. Right? These are the hypotheses. I'm not going to explain again. My son, ladies and gentlemen, all H1, H2, H3, H5 have been very clearly written here. Very clearly. Remember, this is how professionally showing. Remember. So sometimes when you are drawing this conceptual framework, you are marking a lot of variables. For example, right? So you are marking some arrows, say from here to here and here to here, and you are having some, for example, you are having some variable here, some variable here, and some variable here. Lot of things, right? Don't do like that. You can't do it. You are in trouble. Remember. So this is you have to select a simplified conceptual framework with enough rigor. If you are a doctoral student, definitely you should have either mediator or moderator. Better to have both. If you are a master student, it's okay. You can have without mediator and moderator. If you are undergrad, it's okay. You can have without. But if you are a PhD student, definitely you must have both mediator or the moderator, at least one. So when you are reading your articles, remember to get the statistical technique what they used and write it down in a piece of paper, and that should be included in your meta-analysis. Then finally, at the end of the day, you know what is the statistical technique that you can use to measure or analyze your data. Okay, so that is what is given in the meta-analysis number 4. Okay, right? Clear? So because I got so many people asking, I'm asking them to send me their conceptual framework. So they have drawn a very complex one. Why? So they have seen somewhere else, but they are not checking how they have tested. Right? So you have to test it. You have to go after him, right? Because he is the one who knows about. So I took from here. So I am following these 3 people. So you can see how simple these 3 are. Much simpler than mine. These are international articles. I will send it to you. Okay, so remember, this is more than enough. Okay, so you can have 5-6 variables, but more than 5-6 not recommended. Only one mediator is enough your level. Only one moderator is enough your level. Sometimes you can have a demographic variable as the moderator. That's okay. But depending on the critical literature review, So you can't just say this is my moderator, this is my mediator. That should be supported by the critical literature review. Okay, right, clear. That's okay. Finish. Right. Research design, this is a very important. Very important. Research design. Don't worry about this word. This is something like your housing plan, whether you are in Abu Dhabi, whether you are in Oman, whether you are in Bangladesh. When you are building a when you are constructing a building, you have a house building plan. That's it. But remember, this building plan is not a concrete document. Sometimes it might change when you are moving on. So remember that one. But at least you should have a concrete, you should have a fixed document, right? Fundamentals. This is called research design. So remember, so you have to design your research professionally. Okay. So now I am going to tell you these philosophical assumptions. So I think some professional from the Bangladesh, I know that he's a PhD student, he's our permanent member, he has joined of previous workshops as well. Yes, I am now telling you, your ontological stance means his or her assumptions, right? So how assumption about how you are going to observe how the reality exists in the world and what constitutes in it. That is what is called ontology. So don't go after these big words. Just take it ontology and write it down. That's it. But you have to understand what is it. Ontology means how to observe or how to measure how the reality exists in the world and what constitutes in it. So for that, you have to assume you have to have some assumptions. That assumptions are coming under the ontological stance. So don't worry about that. So when you are doing your quantitative research, your ontological stance is the representationalism. That's it. That's your name. So don't go about that. So the research philosophy means epistemological stance. That means it is based on your ontological stance. In other words, how are you going to measure the so-called reality? That's simple. As an engineer, as a detective. As an engineer means not an engineer, I'm an engineer. Is not an engineer, scientist. Scientist means he is or she using the statistics. Detective means qualitative. That means he is not using any numbers. He's working as a detective, going and find the information. Scientist means yes, he's dealing with the numbers. So that is your philosophy. So that's it. So you are even in you were born from Bangladesh. If you go to USA, still your BD remains unchanged. So that is, so when you are doing your quantitative research, your research philosophy or your epistemology is positivism. That means you are going as a scientist. Maybe you have already started your research. Maybe you are going to do the research. Maybe you are planned, but you don't know. But your research ontology is representationalism. Your research epistemology is positivism. No, maybe you don't know, but now you know. Remember, the research approach, qualitative, quantitative. Yes, if it is quantitative, I already told you we are discussing only about the quantitative. Mixed means again the same thing. That means you are having the qualitative part as well as quantitative part. Time horizon, I will explain you later. Unit of analysis, yes, later. Research methods, yes, I will explain you later. Now, again, I will be explaining all this again and again, right? Because these are very important. Why? This is your housing plan. This is your building plan, right? You know the importance of the building plan, right? So when you want to change the building plan, can you do it? No, you can't. Then how can? Then you have to get the support from the experts. Experts. If you are having some problems in your research design, consult your supervisor immediately, or maybe much advanced person than him. Right? Remember that point very well. Okay. Right. Now here you can see ontology. I already told you. So say now you are doing your research. You are doing your quantitative research. This is how you are explaining ontology. What constitutes reality and how we understand its existence. That's what I told you. In other words, ontology means how to observe the reality exists in the world and what constitutes it. That is another definition. This is another definition, but the same. So you have to write down in the your quantitative research. You want to understand, write this. Epistemology, yes, that means the reality is there. Yes, I know. How I am going to measure it? I am going to measure it as a scientist because I am doing quantitative research, dealing with the numbers. Then my epistemological stance is positivism, that is explained in the next slide. Methodology means, as the name implies, methods, data collection method, data analyzing method, sample method. This will be explained later. Axiology, this is a very good. That means when you are doing a research, you have to comply with some ethical standards. So that is coming under the axiology. So very important, ontology, epistemology, that is the same thing you have to write down in your report under the methodology part. So I know that even you can't, even myself can't. So therefore we can refer some book and we are writing ontology, epistemology. Now what is your ontology? It's a representationalism. What is your epistemology? It is a positivism. Why? Because my research is a quantitative. Right? All of you are quantitative. Otherwise, it may be different, right? So remember, so when you are doing a quantitative means, that means if you have a conceptual framework already developed, that means you are doing quantitative research, knowingly or unknowingly. So you have to write down all these things. So these things, of course, now you can get from an article. Simple thing, right? So now you know what you should get. Before that, you don't know, right? So here it is it. Your main ontological stance. Now you are doing the quantitative research. Your main ontological stance is representationalism. That means whether or not phenomena concrete, it is only possible to gather indirect. Don't go after this definition. The reality is out there. Reality is out there. So you have to go there and you have to observe them by using your own sensory organs. You have 5 organs, no? Eyes, skin, hair, what about ears and tongue, and there are 5, no? So you can identify using those 5, or you have to use some scientific aids to measure the real. I will come to later. So that is your ontological stance. So no need to write down the second thing. In your methodology part, you have to write down my ontological stance is representationalism, and you can go refer some articles. You can get some idea, right? That's it. No need to go for the second. So this is something like your name. Now your birthday. Your epistemological stance is positivism. Why? You are going as a scientist. That means you are using the statistics, numbers, information, what do you call that? Quantitative positivism. No need to go for the second one. Only thing is that is your birthday. So you can write down in your methodology part, my epistemological stance is positivism. No need to explain interpretism. So these are again the other thing. That means if you are going as a scientist, then your epistemological stance is the deductive, or it is a positivism. Otherwise, if you are going as a detective, that means you are doing a qualitative research. That means you are not dealing with the numbers. That is called interpretivism. That is not applicable to you. That is why I told you. So this is your name. You want to understand? This is your birthday. No, it won't change, right? As a quantitative researcher, whether you are doing a PhD, undergrad or master, these things will be remaining unchanged. Okay, right now. Okay, right now, any questions, please? So these are some technical. I agree with that. So don't worry about that. Right? Don't worry about that. So now you know your name. What is your name? My ontological stance is representationalism. Now you can just check these words in the Google and understand. That is your name. It will never change, right? And then your birthday. What is that? My epistemological stance is the positivism. That means I am doing my research as a scientist by using the statistical technique. Now you can read some articles. No need to go for the big article. Just read on one article. So when you want to write this thing in your report, you have to write all this in your report, right? You have to, now you know what it is. No need to go for the second one. Now you know your name. your birthday, right? That's it. And the third one, this is a very important, and this is another thing. So deductive means, again, if you are doing the quantitative research, these are the common, right? What is that? You are dealing with the numbers, statistical techniques. Your ontological stance is representation, that is your name. Your birthday is your epistemological stance, that is positivism. You are working as a scientist, these are common, standard. And again, another standard, you are doing a deductive method that is called top to down, right? Top to down, or you are called to theory to specific, general to specific. So deductive. Inductive means you are coming from bottom to up, right? This is for the qualitative, not for the quantitative. So you are doing the quantitative research, that means deductive is for you. So there are some very easy to understand examples. So what is the example? So you now no, you are developing concept, you are developing hypothesis. Bachelors are unmarried. You are developing hypothesis based on your conceptual framework. Now you are having some data. Now you have to collect the data. No? So Bill, there's a person called Bill. He's unmarried. Now you can confirm that therefore Bill is a bachelor. That is what is called deductive. This is a little bit technical. Just read it. And what is inductive? Inductive means you are by observing. Yes, again I am telling you that is qualitative. You saw one swan, it is white. You saw another swan, it is also white. You saw third, so it is also white. Then you can say that all the swans in the world are white. Is it correct or wrong? Don't know. That is how inductive method is. There are some critics. Popper is one of the critic in this philosophy. He says that this is wrong. This is not the wrong. This is a problem and this is questionable. But you don't have any other method. You have only deductive, inductive, mainly mixed. Mainly mixed pair. As you know, everywhere you don't have the pure. No, you don't have mixed things. Right now, deductive means straight away from top to bottom. Inductive means bottom to up. Again, when you are doing the quantitative research, you are doing deductive method. That is again, that is your signature. Wherever you go, your name, your birthday, now you have signature. These three will not change. Go wherever you go, not change. So you have to write down all these things in your research methodology chapter. No need to write the inductive method. No need to write the mixed method. You have to write deductive. To write the deductive, you have to get information from article. A simple thing. Okay. Right. Now that's okay. The time horizon, this is a very, very important. Time horizon, that is cross-sectional and the longitudinal. Cross-sectional means you are measuring at a time. For example, you want to do a research about the purchasing intention of the hybrid vehicles in Sri Lanka. At a time, I am collecting data within 1 or 2, 3 months. One questionnaire is taken from one respondent only one time. That is called cross-sectional. So basically, you are doing cross-sectional research. That means you are collecting data. Then what do you mean by longitudinal? That is over the period of time. For example, so you want to do a research on the corona patients in 2000, in 2019, 10, 21, 22, like that. Same people, maybe same group of people over a period of time. That is coming under the longitudinal. But basically, when you are doing a quantitative research, your time horizon is the cross-sectional. So again, another signature or something like that. These are common for you. Okay. But remember, please check when you are reviewing the literature, how they have done. They have very clearly written these things. Okay. Now you know how maybe they have not written as their time horizon is this, not like that, but they have written in the similar meaning. They have given the similar meaning. Then you have to understand this is time horizon. This is cross-sectional. They are now you can say that, for example, if you just read the article, they may say that they found these data in the Bangladesh, the Chittagong, within 1 month time. That is time. That is cross-sectional. That is his time horizon is cross-sectional. That's it. Maybe straight away he is not saying that my time horizon is cross-sectional, my this is not like that. They have very clearly given or the shown or the written how they have collected data. So by looking at, you can say that this is cross-sectional or longitudinal. Then you can say my time horizon is the cross-section. This is also something like signature if you are doing the quantitative research. Okay, right. So we have to be okay. So what is it? Bill is unmarried, Kumar is unmarried, Nihal is unmarried. So I will later explain you. Okay. So because I have another 20 slides to complete, right? So the time horizon and this example was taken from Duma Segaran's book. That is there. I will send you the reference so that you can see more details. Okay, right? Unit of analysis. What is that? That means the elements. For example, if you want to do a national research on Sri Lanka, every citizen of Sri Lanka is a unit of analysis, right? So I'm not going to read one by one. The unit of analysis can be an individual, group, diverse division, industry, maybe country. For example, if you want to do a research about the GDP value of the countries in the Asia, then your unit of analysis is a country, maybe India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Nepal, like that. So their unit of analysis is a country. For example, if you want to do research on the employee retention in the machine operators in the garment industries in Bangladesh, machine operators are called unit of analysis, not the supervisors, not the managers, machine operators. Right? Remember that. Unit of analysis is the elements, the random variables, right? So remember, you have to very clearly write this one. What is unit of analysis? Definitely you have to write down, right? It should be very clear. Right? Okay. Now, data collection methods, very clearly, the survey is the best according to the Umasekaran. So when you are doing the quantitative research, surveys are the most widely used. There are so many techniques how to do the survey, how to collect your data. So basically, it may be through the quantitative, if you are doing the quantitative research, basically you are collecting your data through the questionnaires, which will be explained later. If the qualitative, you can do the observation, in-depth interviews, focus groups. So these things you can now, these things you have to understand. Now you know what you have to understand. So you can just check in the Google, because I don't have time to read each and everything, right? Because I have to go for another 10-15 slides. So the quantitative data collection method is the survey. Observations means you observe, right? You observe, but if you observe, then you can't give some analytics, because you are not measuring, just observing. Experiments are also doing the same thing. Surveys means you are measuring the impact. So basically, if you are doing the quantitative research, your data collection is some form of survey, right? So the survey, sample and inference. Survey means how to collect your data. Opinion polls, marketing surveys, lot of surveys, right? Sample means, I'll explain in the next slide. Inferential means based on your sample, you are inferring about the entire population. In other words, based on your sample, you are predicting about the entire population, right? Survey techniques, basically face-to-face interviews, very difficult. So if you are doing a national research, then can you go Jaffna, can you go Hambantota, can you go Tissamarama, can you go Badulla and do it? No, it's difficult. So the best way is the structured or the non-structured questionnaire. That means you are writing in a piece of paper in the order the constructs you want to measure. I'll explain you later. That means in my research, you saw there were 6 constructs. I have to measure all the 6 constructs. I told you very clearly, I should have a scales to measure. I told you very clearly. Now that is it. I have to write down all the scales to measure my 6 constructs in a piece of paper. Focus groups, not important for the survey techniques, right? So these are interviews face to face. I already told you very clearly, if you are doing a national research, big research, you can't get your information face to face. Telephonic interviews, very difficult. Why? People are not answering. people are cutting the phone one-sidedly. Sometimes now in every country there is a software called app called Truecaller. So when they get when they get unknown calls, they are not answering. Sometimes that go to the spam. They will not. So very difficult. All things are very clearly given here. So when you are doing good research, national research, you have to go for the questionnaire, right? The questionnaires are two types. Okay, observations. So this is a very clearly. So if you go to the supermarket, the CCTVs are there. CCTVs are observing the customer's behavior. That is only for the qualitative, not for the quantity, not for the big, not to answer the why, how much, why. Just observe. Right? For example, you might have seen at the signal lights. The people are observing how many cars are going there, how many cars are there. They are observations, right? So remember this one. When you're collecting your data through the observation, you are getting the data about the what and not about the why and how. You are not analytical, right? You are just collecting how many cars are there, right? Why cars are going there, you don't know about that, but you are just watching how many cars are there. Not, you can't answer the why, because then you have to stop him and you have to ask why you are going here, right? So remember, observations are only best to find out what, right? Not to why. Okay, if you want to ask why he is passing that signal, then you have to stop him and you have to ask from him. So observations are like that. Remember the point, right? Type of service, this is a very important. We have 1 hour, we can manage it, don't worry about that. Type of surveys, pre-survey, pilot survey means why. Pre-survey means once you develop your conceptual framework, right? You are having your own variables and you are developing your questionnaire, then you have to send to some expert panel, maybe 5 to 6, to check about the English knowledge, to get about the ambiguities and the double meanings of your questions, to check about the understanding and the misunderstanding. That is coming under the content validity and the face validity. Even if you didn't do this one, you have to say before your panel that you did a pre-survey to ensure the face validity and the content validity. So once you get opinion from these big people like your supervisor, then only 4 or 5 people enough. Then you are changing according, then you are sending a pilot survey to get for about 30 to 50, 40 respondents. Then you are collecting the data and you are ensuring reliability and validity, which will be explained in the next slide. So that is your pilot survey. Once you collected your pilot survey, so you have to clean your data set. You have to check the reliability. You have to check the validity. You have to do the dimension reduction test, and lot of things are there. Finally, after cleaning after validating your questionnaire, you will be sending for the main survey. Okay. So you have to understand all these 3. I know a lot of people are not doing one. Lot of people are not doing the second. Most of you are straight away doing the main survey. Remember, that is wrong. So if you didn't do that one, at least you should know. So you should know that you have to do all these 3 surveys. Pre-survey, just to check the English face validity, about the ambiguities, misunderstanding, double meanings, all these things, right? So that, of course, how to check? Send it to give to some expert panels, maybe your supervisor, university professors, your executives, so only 5 to 6, maximum 10. Second one is enough. Second one, so once you got their opinions, you will have to change it accordingly, right? And then you will have to send it to the unit of analysis. That means, for example, if you are doing the research on the retention of employees in the garment industry, you have to distribute to the garment employees, machine operators, unit of analysis. pilot survey. Now you are getting your feedback from them about 30 to 40, and you are running your SPS, AMOS, or whatever. And then finally, you are cleaning your questionnaire. You are doing reliability and validity, very, very important. And then you are doing the main survey. That means 300 or 400 machine operators. Okay, now hope you understand exactly. We have 1 hour, right? Okay, now please remember these are very, very important, right? Why survey method? I'm not going to explain that one. Straightforward. So the sampling method, why? So very, very straightforward. Why? Sampling means you have a big, big population. So you can't go and get the information from each and everyone. Sometimes your research may be a global one. Sometimes you have to get information from USA, Australia, Canada, Bangladesh, Pakistan. Can you go there and collect? No, you can't. So then you are getting the samples, right? What are the main characteristics of the sample? You can see in the big box, you have all full population. That means all the unit of all these, everyone. So you can see, say, 6 cars and 30 cars, right? Out of 30 cars, you have selected only 6 cars. But can you remember? These 6 cars represent black, yellow, green, red, orange, blue. All the 6 cars, 6 color cars were reflected or represented by this sample. That is called representation. You have to select your sample representing the entire population. And the randomness means you are collecting your data randomly, right? Not purposefully. No, you are just picking your hand and bringing someone at a time. That is what is called randomness. And you should have enough sample size. Otherwise, you will not get the unbiased result. Remember, so these are very, very important 3 characteristics of when you are selecting a sample, right? So why sampling? So I'm now going to explain. The first bullet says physically you can't go everywhere. The second bullet says it's a very high cost. Third bullet says again physically, and again the same, you can't go. The first bullet says the time consuming. Second bullet says the cost. Third bullet says the physically you can't go. Right? Because of these 3 bullets, you are taking the sample. But according to the Mason and Lynn, most important bullet number 4 and 5. Why? Bullet number 4 says when you are collecting data from each and every element, you are getting more human errors, more research errors, more sample errors. So therefore, you are getting samples. That is bullet number 4. Bullet number 5, what's that? Very important. According to the Mason and Lynn, so statistically, it gives no difference. For example, I will show you later. So when you have the population exceeding 100,000, your sample size is 383. When your population exceeding 1 million, your sample size is 304. So when your population is 10 million, what about your sample size? It is a 3,800. No, still remains 384. Why? So it will not change, statistically not change. Even if you have 10 billion, statistically your sample size is 384. Remember that one. But descriptively it is different. When you are doing descriptive analysis, you get good results. But statistically, you are not getting any difference, even if you go higher and higher and higher. Okay, that's a very good point. So normally 388 is the sample size for any population exceeding 100,000. Remember, so I have given here how to calculate the sample size. I am not showing it. The sampling here. So this is how to calculate the sample size. Very straightforward. You can see here in the yellow color I have given is a 384. That is the sample size for a massive population. Remember that point very, very clearly. So here, if you go there, right, I will give you these recordings later. That's how to calculate the sample size. It is given in the Google. So very easy. But remember the point why you are taking the sample, right? And remember, sampling is a very, very important, very, very important, right? Okay. So now the sampling method. This is a very important. So I'll take 5 minutes to complete this one, right? Probability sampling, non-probability sampling. Probability sampling means for each and every element has an equal chance of being selected. That means you are not purposely picking up anyone. So you just put your hand and pick up anything randomly. That is what is called probability sampling. Each and every element has a non-zero equal chance of being selected. That is probability sampling. Then what do you call that? Non-probability. That is not. That means no, you don't have equal or non-zero probability of being selected. Sometimes you might be included or not, because you are selecting by hand. I'll tell you straight away. You are taking number one, you are taking Priyantha Morapiti, right? You are taking someone else purposely, but the probability means you don't know who is coming to your hand. You don't know. You are just putting your hand, finger or whatever and collecting the data. You don't know who is in your hand. But the non-probability means you know, right? This time I am taking Priyantha Morapiti, next time I am taking someone else, like that. You know. So that is what is called non-probability. So you should know all these things. So your sampling methods entirely depends on your research question. What is that? So basically, so you are given your research interest, research question. Based on that, you have to develop your sampling method. Right? Under the probability sampling, you have basically 6, maybe much more. So basically 6 or 7, right? What is the first one? Unrestricted dose sample random. So random sampling means very simple. So you are having all the elements in a one box. So you are just picking one by one. That is called random sampling. Right? So what is the called systematic sampling? I'll explain you later. Right? And all these things will be explained very, very briefly. Okay. Right. Now remember, probability sampling means each and every element has a equal chance of being selected. The non-probability is no. You don't have, you are collecting as you want. Right? You are just selecting as you want. I'll show you later. Right? Probability sampling, random sampling, I already explained you. For example, if you want to get the 100 out of 5,000, you are simply collecting 100. Now, you know, in the refers, you know how to do the refers. Put all these things into one box and selecting one by one. But now the technology is very advanced. There are some random sampling programs. So once you put everything in the program, the computer will select you the 100 or whatever. So there are some computer assistant programs. So that is called random sampling, means you are selecting one at a time and the second at a time, no issue. What do you mean by systematic random sampling? Again, the random, but here, for example, the same population, you are having 5,000 students. You want to get 100. You are marking, you are randomly, you are selecting one number, say 32, right? And the next item you are selecting after 50. How did you get the 50? You divide entire population number of 100, then you are getting the 50. So first number is 32, the second number is 82, third number is 132 after 50 intervals. Why? This is very important. Why? Entire population is represented. Why? Because starting from 0 to 5,000, you are taking your samples. But in the first case, you don't know. Sometimes you are getting everything within 1 and 10. Sometimes you may get everything within 300 to 400. Sometimes you may get everything within 2,000 to 3,000. Then you might not get the early parts, or you might not get the later parts. But in the system random sampling, you are getting from 0 to 5,000 in the equal interval of 50. Right? So this should be very clear. Right? And then the stratified sampling. Stratified sampling means, right, your entire population is divided into the meaningful strata. Meaningful. What do you mean by meaningful? For example, if you want to do a national research in Sri Lanka, the entire population can be easily divided into the male, female, meaningful strata, or can be divided into the based on the ethnicity, right? Sinhalese, Tamils, Muslims, Burger, Malay, meaningful strata, or can be divided into the religions, Buddhist, Catholic, Islam, Hindu, or like that, meaningful strata. That is what is called the stratified sampling. And then finally, you are selecting from these strata. So that is called stratified sampling, right? And then you are, and remember, entire country is divided, entire country, right? Based on the meaningful category. So then you come to the cluster sampling. Cluster sampling means again the same, entire country is divided into the geographical areas. For example, in Sri Lanka, so if you want to do a national research in Sri Lanka, the Sri Lanka will be divided into the 25 districts in Sri Lanka. So each district is called cluster sampling, and the steps are very clearly given in the under the bullet. Okay, so now you understand the cluster sampling. So when you want to do a national sampling, you can't do the random sampling. You can't do the stratified. You have to do the either cluster or the, what is the next one? Stratified. Stratified means you have to divide it into the meaningful strata, meaningful, entire country. Maybe Jaffna, or for example, north, south, or no issue. Both can be in the same group, right? But male, female. Maybe Jaffna male is mixed with the southern male people, right? Male, male. But in the cluster sampling, Jaffna is Jaffna. For example, southern is southern, northern is northern, eastern is eastern, western is western. But in the stratified sampling, you are not concerning about the geography, you are just concerning about the category. Male, no issue whether it is Jaffna, whether it's a northern, southern, eastern, no western, no issue. Okay, right. That's all about the cluster sample, right? Okay, we will be discussing later. That's a very good question, Mr. Sanjeeva. I'll be discussing. Everything is discussing here. Only thing is the time, right? Everything is given here, right? We have another 45 minutes. Now you understand the cluster sample, simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, and then the simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling, and cluster sampling, right? So you understand that four. Okay. So this is the multi-stage. Multi-stage means you are having the clusters, multiple stages. For example, so if you want to do a, this is I took it from the second Buddhist book. If you want to do a research in India about the banks, first whole India is divided into the urban, semi-urban, rural, geographical. And the second stage, now you are taking some districts from these areas, these provinces, and finally from these districts you are collecting banks, right? There are first stage, second stage, third stage. First stage is entire India is divided into three: urban, semi-urban, rural, and then choose some particular areas, and each of these, in other words, out of these areas you are taking some particular area. Second stage. Third one, in that particular area you are collecting, you are taking some banks. So there are 3 steps, maybe much more. So now you can understand multi-stage. I have no time to explain more, right? So the double sampling is very straightforward. I'm not going to read it. That means if your sampling is not enough, you are getting the information from the same people, double, same people, right? Non-probability sampling. Now it is a very, very important. This is what the question asked by the Mr. Sanjeeva. This is for you. Non-probability means, I already told you very clearly, each and every element does not have an equal chance of being selected. That's good. That's question of Mr. Sanjeeva. Convenience means, yes, based on my convenience, I am going and collecting info. For example, if you want to do a research on the rail commuters, so I will go to the nearest railway station and collect the data. I am not going to Jaffna because I am in Colombo, so Jaffna is very far from me. So I am not going to Jaffna. So I am just collecting my information only from the Colombo, only from the nearest station to me. So that is what is called the convenience. Convenience sampling based on my own convenience. For example, I want to do a research on the shoppers in the supermarket, say about particular supermarket, right? So I'm going to the nearest supermarket. For example, I'm not going to promote any supermarket chain in Sri Lanka. Say about we want to go to the Keel supermarket, right? So I'm just going to my area's nearest Keel supermarket, and then I am going to generalize to the other Keels even in the Jaffna. That is for the convenience, based on my convenience. Purposive sampling, purposive, based on your purpose, right? So what's that? Judgmental sampling means, for example, you want to do some research on the lady managers, right? Not the others. Lady manager, I told this is non-probability. Why? Non-probability means you are selecting people as you want. No randomness, nothing, right? So now I want to get information from the lady leaders, right? So I will select some lady leaders based on my own judgment. Maybe might be wrong. For example, I say that this lady is a leader. I believe, I assume, right? I judge. So I am getting information only from her. Why? Because she is the one who can give me the information. For example, if I get the random ladies, so will they give me, will they leaders? No. So I want to get the information only from the lady leaders, not from the ladies. Lady leaders. So that is called judgment sampling. What is the disadvantage? Because my own judgment, I decide that she is a lady leader. Maybe not. Right? So in that case, it is bias. So remember that is the disadvantage. But other than that, if you want to do a lady leaders research, if you want to do a research in the lady leaders, definitely you have to go for this type of sampling. Otherwise, no anyone. Other things are not applicable to this one. What is the quota sampling? So very straightforward. Say, for example, if you want to do a research on your own organization, right? Say about the blue colors and the white colors, the percentage is white color 60% and blue color 40%. That is the percentage of your entire organization. Now you want to get 100 numbers. So how do you get it? Out of 100, you select how much is 60%. That is 30. No, it is 30. Then you get the 30 white collar people, and 40% out of the 100, 40% is 18. No, out of the example, yeah. Out of the 100, it is 12. So 18 at the 12 are the your sizes. That is based on your percentage. You can just simply calculate and see it. For example, 30%. Your main sample is 30. Out of 30, you should have a 60% white and 40% blue based on your 30 sample size. It is simply 8 and 12. This is called purposive sampling and the judgment and the quota sampling. Okay, is it clear? Should be clear. Convenience sampling, yes, I can't go to Jaffna, I can't go to Hambantota. I am just going to the nearest supermarket near to me. I'll get the information. That is called convenience sampling. Purposive sampling is for my own purpose. I want to get the information from the lady leader. So I decide, I judge, she is a lady leader, or this one is a lady leader, that one is a lady leader. So I get the information only for why? Other ladies can't give the information because they are just ladies. I want to get the information only from the executive ladies. So that is my own judgment. Quota sampling is based on the quota. That means in the entire population, the population is the 60%. Say white collar, 40% blue. Now I need the 30 sample. That means within that 30, there should be 8 blue color and 12 white color. That's it, right? So now this is a very important, Mrs. Sanjeeva, this is again for you. Non-probability sampling continued, right? The volunteer sampling, right? I hope that every one of you are much younger than me, so you can stay somewhere around up to 10 o'clock. I'm very older than you, but still I'm very energetic to give these things for you, right? So please wait me, please stay with me until 10 o'clock maximum, maybe 9:50. Okay. So the volunteer sampling is volunteering. The people are volunteering, right? In all the samples we discussed early, we selected, we, right? The researcher selected. Now the self-sampling means, for example, if you want to do a research on the on the facilities of your canteen, so you are going there and you are asking who can give the information, then people will come, right? The people volunteer, now, so I can give you the information because I am taking food every time. So I can give another student this can say I can give because I know how they prepare the food, so I can give. Another student come, yes sir, every time I have been taking the foods for the last 2-3 months, so I know. So these are volunteers, right? Self-selection. They are self. They come in by themselves. What is the meaning of snowball sampling? This is a very, very important. Why? This is again volunteer. Snowball means is a ball, right? It's a ball. So when you hit this ball at a snow field, if you have a experience, you know, then the ball will get lot of snow at a first hit, and then it will come to the next. It will roll to the next stage or level. Then it gets much snow. Similarly, when it comes to the down, it is a very, very big ball. For example, you are starting from a tennis ball at the top of the snow field, and when it comes down, it's a bigger than football. Why? Getting snow collected over and over again. So that's the principle. So how do you do that one? Like this, very simple. For example, if you want to do research on the sex workers, are these sex? I don't know any other countries, right? I'm not sure about other countries, but in Sri Lanka, right? In Sri Lanka, I think even the Bangladesh, even in the Dubai, the same. Sex workers are not available in everywhere to get the samples. No. For example, AIDS patients, not widely seen, right? For example, those days, say about this drug the people who is addicted to the drugs, you can't see. So but you can find only 1 or 2 people, because you can ask from your people, I am doing a research on this drug addicts, can you please show me only one person? Definitely he will tell you. Just now you are going and approach him, you are going and tell them we are going to do a research on the drug addicted people, definitely you will be getting much benefits on this, so could you please help me? Or then sometimes you might give him some drugs, then they will tell you a lot of others who are taking drugs. By in that way you are getting more and more drug addicted people through from the one person you are getting another 3, and those 3 you are getting another 9, and those 9 you are getting another 27, like that, like a snowball. That is what is called snowball sampling. Okay, that's all about the sampling techniques. So this is remember, all these sampling techniques are there, but finally end of the day you are selecting the samples as per your own convenience. But you are saying, but you are not saying that you went for a convenient. You are saying that I went for a ratified, I went for a cluster. But I know that the most of people are doing as they can do. That's a different thing, but you have to understand the techniques. Okay, right? So this is how you have to calculate the quota sampling. I'm not going to explain this one. And this is it again, how to do that one. This is a very, very important, right? Very, very important. Now, this is a, you can see, very, very important. Please, if you are, I know that most of you may be sleeping, right? Still, this is a very, very small conceptual framework. What? Weight has a relationship with the height. Is it true or not? You can decide it. According to the research papers, weight and height has a relationship. There's a relationship. Now you want to check it, whether there is or no. Right. Height, now I already told you all the variables should be able to be measured. Height, can you measure it? Can? How? By meters or the centimeters. What about the weight? Can you measure? Yes. By lbs or the kilograms. So no issue. So you can do your research. Why? You can measure your dV. Here height is your dV, weight is your IV. No moderator, no mediator. Don't worry about those things. Now I just want to say how to select your scales, right? Mediator, moderator, we discuss a lot, right? So now you have to test both these. You have to measure both sides. That means your dV and your IV. Height, very simple, by meters. Weight, very simple, by kilogram. So no issue. Right. Now you are coming to the conceptual framework, very simple conceptual framework, right? So don't go after the word. This is a very simple, only one IV, only one dV. Compensation has a relationship with the job satisfaction. Is it there or not? By your own gut feeling, that is definitely there. But you can't say that. Why? You have to show, because you are a big people. You have to show it by using the research. Okay, right. Right now, compensation and the job satisfaction. Now you have the two variables. So how did you get this dV? dV is definitely your research interest. Your company says to do a research about the job satisfaction of the people. That is your research interest. And then the factor, IV is a factor. Then you have to check the literature and should identify the factor IV. Compensation was identified through the literature review. Job satisfaction is given to you to investigate. Right now, both of DV and IV are there. Now, how do you measure these things? Can you measure? Anyone? Anyone? Please. I can switch on your mics, but the problem is the time. Can you? You can't. Why? As you already know, so the above things can be measured by using the natural scales, meter and the balance or the scale. But these two variables, continuous variables, they are construct. You can't use the natural scales. Instead of that, you have to develop Likert scale. Likert scale. That means job satisfaction. To measure the job satisfaction, you have some standard scales. Can you remember when we were discussing about the conceptual framework? I told you you should have those arrows, those questions. This is it. How to measure job satisfaction? You have 3-4 questions. How to measure compensation? You have 3-4. But these 3-4 questions cannot be decided by you, by me, by your supervisor. That has to be taken from the literature review. Okay, right. You have to go faster. Right. So this is it. I'm not going to explain this one. So this is sensory organs work scientific scales. Right. What's that? What's that? So if you want to, I mean, that select the beauty queen of the married and unmarried women. How did you select? By just touching? Don't try to touch it, right? So they will hit you. Then how? Right? By looking at their figures? No, you can't. By looking at their front side? No, you can't. So there are some standard questions. Some standard questions. Likewise, how to measure the how to select the most, I mean the bodybuilder, right? So I know that most of you guys now very interested in these things. You are building your bodies. So how do you select this one? Can you measure this one? You can't. So there are some standard scales, right? So these standard scales, you are asking some questions, and then you are giving some marks to each and every question. Finally, you are collecting. You are getting the summation of this, and you are selecting this is the most beautiful woman. This is the second one based on their marks. How did you measure? By using a Likert scale, right? That's it. Now, why did I take married and unmarried women? Why is that? Why? So, can you measure the married woman by using the same scales which you use the unmarried women? Can you? You can't. Why? Then why do you have the two different categories? Sometimes almost say, assume that there are 5 questions are there. For example, height, weight, figure, skin color, hair. There may be some similar questions, but there are some different questions. Why? Married and unmarried. So therefore, you have to get the valid questionnaire, a valid instrument to measure married woman and unmarried. That is coming under the concept called validity. For example, father's love and mother's love. You want to test. How do you test it? Can you measure it? Father's love? Can you measure mother's love? No. You can see 2 questions, 2 statements are same. Consoles when injured. No, that's okay. No. So if you have some injured, they are coming and consoling you. That's it. Tells beautiful stories. Yeah, both mother and father are doing. What about the third one? Mother cooks and gives tasty food, but father brings. You can understand. Criterias are different. Validities are different to test the mother's love and the father's love. Similarly, you have to get the validated questions to measure your construct. That's it. I hope you understand. This is my own findings I have prepared specifically for you. Okay. Right. So this is what is called Likert scale. Normally, PhD students, you should have 7 Likert scale. Masters, undergrads, it's okay for you to have 5. Normally, you are starting from least level to next level. You can see strongly disagree to strongly agree. So other side is also okay, strongly agree to, but basically, generally, people are starting from minimum to maximum. So this is how, right? So this is something like a reality show. So you are asking, you are measuring your questions using this Likert scale. Remember the point very well. You are not asking the question, you are giving as the statements. Remember that point very well. When you want to measure your question, your construct, can you remember? So you are not asking the question, you are giving as a statement and you are asking how far they agree with that statement. This is how the Likert scales are developed. Okay. So now, so this is again, so this is a very, very small one. Now the same question. Employee satisfaction compensation. When I checked the Google, I found that employee satisfaction can be measured by using these 3 called ES1, ES2, ES3. The compensation I have not written here. Again, 4 statements. Please remember these scales are written as the statements, not the question. But for words, I am telling it as a question. But when you are writing, you write it as a statement. ES1, satisfaction with verb. How far you are satisfied? Now you are having the scale 4. 4 means average. It's something like a water. Not satisfied, not unsatisfied. That's 4. So the second one, number 6. Third one, number 5. So you have to sum up all these 3. 4, 6 equal 10. 10 plus 5 equals 15. Divided by 3, you are getting 5 here. Why you divide here? Why? Because to measure the employee satisfaction, you use 3 scales. 3 scales. So therefore, you divided the summation by 3. But to measure the compensation, you are using 4 scales. So therefore, you have to divide by 4. Then only you are getting a comparison very clearly. So if you have at the both side 4 and 4, then it is okay. No need to divide. But in the left side, you are having 4. Right side, you are having 3. Therefore, you have to divide and get the average. So that is it. So this is a very, very simple. So you have to follow this order. Okay, right now it's okay. So the operationalization table, this is a very, very important. So operationalization table means you have to write down all your constructs and how to measure it. Okay, I have to finish it by 10 o'clock. Right. So if I go to this one, so this is operational table. Can you see this one? Shared one. Okay. Right. So this is the operational table. Very, very straightforward. So I will share all this with you. This is it. What's that? So this is my 6 variables. Right. Variable number 1, 2, 3. These are IVs. This is my mediator, and this is my moderator, and this is my DV. Only that. So what are these things? This column. The scales, you can see how many scales? 8, right? To measure this one, right? To measure the second IV, 9 scales, right? And to measure the third IV, how many scales? 6, no? 6, right? So that's it, okay? Similarly, so what about this final column? From whom I took this? From whom? These are the people who have developed these questions, these scales. Remember, these are not the questions. Even if I say it as a question, these are statements. Who have first developed these people? So I have to give respect to them, and I have to give due respect to them, and I have to write down, otherwise it is wrong. So this is what is called operationalization table. So based on this table, you are developing your questionnaire based on this table. Okay, so that's it. What is your question? Yes, definitely I will send it to you. Okay, everything will be shared with you, right? Okay, and right, that's okay. This is it. So this is for my research, but for your research, you have to prepare this one. So okay, very straightforward. Thank you very much, Mr. Alaka from Abu Dhabi. Thanks. Right. Okay. And now let's go to the next one. Right. Why operationalization table? If you check in the Google, you in the dictionary, you don't have words something like this. But in the Google, you have, this is a specially technical word for the research. In the dictionary, you don't have, right? Normal dictionary. Okay. So based on your operationalization table, you have to develop your question based on this one. Why? It's very simple, no? This one. So this is IV1. To measure IV1, you are asking this question, this 8. Given 8 Likert scales, 8 Likert scales. For this one, 9 Likert scales. For this one, 6 Likert scales. And you are asking, okay, I will show you how to do it, right? I have no time, otherwise I can normally I can teach even after 12 o'clock. That's okay because I'm very young, theoretically young. Huh? Right now you know about the operations table. So I'm not going to read these things. The operational table is used to develop your questionnaire. Your questionnaire will be shared with your respondents to get the information. So remember these terms, right? You have to definitely prepare your operationalization table in the methodology chapter. Okay, right. And I'm not going to explain, right? Okay, about the questionnaire, I have 9 slides to go. 9 slides. Yes, I can manage it. Major concerns, right? So when you are developing your questionnaire, so you have to check what kind of information is needed. How should individual respond? How will they answer? Will they skip? Right? Will they be scared to give the information? All these things you have to think about that, right? And what should be the structure? Whether it is a semi-structure or the structure or unstructured. So these are very simple things you can understand, right? So this is a very, very important, right? I will explain you, right? Okay. First one I am not telling, and the second one is not important. You can read it. The yellow color, self-administered means you are sending the questionnaire by using WhatsApp or email, or like I sent you the Google form, you filled and you send it to me. Actually, you didn't send, you just submitted, then I got it immediately through my computer. That is called self-administered. That's a simple questionnaire I gave it to you. I asked some questions from you. That's a simple questionnaire. Self-administered. Research administered means I am polling, or I am going in front of you and I am getting answers for all these simple questions. What is your name? What is your mobile number? What is your district? What is your research? How is your English knowledge? All the questions will be asked by me or my agent personally. That is called researcher administered. Self-administered means the what you did. That means I sent you the questionnaire, Google form, you filled and submitted, I got immediately. That's how you have to do. Okay. Right now, that's okay. Any questions? No, right? Okay. Thank you. So I am not going to explain other bullets. Oh, this is a little important. So when you are writing your questionnaire in your question in your questionnaire, open-ended, closed-ended. What does it mean by open-ended? Open-ended means you are asking some question. For example, what's your name? Because you don't know the name, no. So you are asking, what's your name? That is open-ended. In my case, I have asked, but when you are doing your own research, don't try to ask the name because they will not tell you the names. You just ask some other reference code or whatever. You can have the name in a different fold or wherever, right? Open-ended means when you are asking the question, you are allowing them to write. For example, your email address, that's an open-ended question. Your telephone number, that is open-ended question. Other than everything in my Google form are closed-ended. Why? You are given boxes to write. You can't write whatever you want. You can select. For example, your English knowledge from 1 to 5, right? Your district. Out of 25, if you are from the outside of the Sri Lanka, you have a box for them. You can't write, I am in Dubai, I am in America. No, you can't. So if I give you spaces to write about your area, you are writing down your home address also. I don't want your home address, right? I don't want. I just want your district. Actually, I don't want. But I mean that these boxes are to minimize the unwanted data. For example, so if you want to, if I want to get the actually, I ask your age, but that is not required for me. That is not optional. So I did not ask it purposely. Sometimes you can give me, sometimes you no need. But if you want to get the ages, you can have the categories 20 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35. So then you can, then these are closed. Why? Their options are closed. Married, unmarried. I didn't ask no about why should I get those data? No. So when you're doing your own research, you have to ask married, unmarried, what do you call that? Separated or widowed or whatever. So if you gave them space, then they will write like this. I married in 2018, then I separated, then I got married again, and now I am divorced, and I have 4 kids. So a lot of stories are there. You don't want those stories. You want know whether they married, not unmarried, widowed, separate. So you are giving their option closed. Only one tag, one close. That's it, right? So I'm not going to say positively and negative. Sometimes you are asking the positive question and negative. Double barrel means in one question, don't try to ask 2 questions. Then you ask 2 questions separate. In one question is a 1 question, no 2 questions. That's it. This is a one. It's a very important one, right? So I'm not going to explain this one. This is a long leading questions. Leading question means don't ask any questions to get your own answers. Sometimes you're predetermined. You want him to give this answer. Don't try to ask something like that. You ask them to behave naturally. Their natural answers are needed. I am not going to read one by one. These are very standard. I took all this from the Uma Sekaran book. I can send it to you the soft copy of that book. This is my Bible. Okay, right. So these are the some characteristics. So these are very standard, but you should know, right? Okay, so this is the conceptual framework. Again, very simple. Who developed by this one? This is developed by Parasaruman. This is called the Parasaruman model. Right? So undergrads, master students, if you are doing any research based on the service industry, you can simply use this one, based on the service industry. So you don't want to test this one. Why? This is worldwide accepted. There are 5 dimensions called service quality, reliability, assurance, tangibles. These are IVs. No need to worry about. No need to worry to identify. Why? This is identified already by Parasaruman and tested in the world more than 200, 300 times. So you don't have to test again. You can take all these 5 IVs as your own IVs if you are doing a service-based industry. For example, transport industry, hospital industry, education industry, what else? Hospital, hotel industry, service-based, bank. Remember, simple things I am not going to explain. Now you know how to develop your conceptual framework. How? But if you are doing your own research in the other field, you can't have the IVs like this. Then you have to identify by using the critical literature review. But if you are doing a master research, right? Sometimes you can get a my model. Very simply, you can take that. I got this model from the Moropati. That of course you can do it. Why? You are doing a master research. If you are doing undergraduate, you can use this one straight away. But you have to give the due reference to this Parasaruman at all. So if you are taking my model, you have to say that this model was taken from the Moropati. Right? There is some way of writing it. But if you are doing a doctoral degree, PhD, my daughters and sons, you are not able to do like that. You have to develop your own conceptual frame. No, it's okay. You can copy from me because I also copied. But in that case, you can't copy whole. Fully, you can't copy and paste. Right? You can get some, and you can I already showed you very clearly. I used three similar conceptual frameworks to develop my own, and my own one is a totally different than them, but there are some similarities as well. So remember that point very well. Okay, now you know how to do this one, how to measure this one. So there should be a scales to measure this one, to measure this one, to measure this one. Why? All these are very standard. Why? This is a highly developed and worldwide accepted model developed by this Parasaruman. So there are standard scales to measure these things. No need to worry about that. So this is it. So this is how the operationalization table is. So you can, the part, I will send you the, I will share with you with accepted questionnaire so that you can see how it has been prepared. Part A, you are asking the demographic variables. For example, name, district, age, gender, marital state, profession. So you can have open-ended, close-ended. You know how you know what is open-ended, what is close-ended, right? So you can have. Part B is again general. For example, what kind of vehicle you are using and why did you select that? This is not compulsory. But when you come to the part C, it is compulsory. Why? You are measuring your constructs. How? Based on your what? Operationalization table. That means you are having there your scales, you are asking, you are writing that scales, and you are having the Likert scale, and they are marking their points. And you can remember, I told you very clearly, you have to get the average. Why? You are asking different number of questions to measure your construct. See how it is. So this is it. One variable number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 IVs. 1 DV. This is demographic means, it's as you know, you are not going to measure straight away, you observe it, your age, your gender, or your name, or whatever, they are called demography. So these 5 should be measured by using Likert scale. How? This is it. This is the question number 1. See, it is not a question, that's a statement. I already told very clearly. Right now you can see there are 6 variables, isn't it? Yeah. And how many questions are there? 27. Remember, I am telling every time questions, but they are called items, indicators, or scales. Right? That's how it is defined. But for my own convenience, I am saying it's a question. Remember the point. And one thing I have to tell you very clearly before the finishing this important session. What is that? Right? What's that? I have to tell you very clearly. What's that? That is, right? Okay, that is. So when you're finding these scales to measure your variables, you have to make sure to measure one variable. You have to get the questions from one article. You understand the point? That means here in this case, 5 IVs, 1 DV. It's very simple. I'll be finishing by 10 o'clock. So no need, don't worry about that. Right? I complete my promise. So here you have 5 variables. Then now you have to measure this one, measure this one, measure this one, measure this one. So you have to have scales to measure this one, to measure this one, to measure. To measure this one, you have to get the scales only from one article. To measure this one, you have to get only from the one article. No need to get from the same article, but to measure one construct, you have to get the scales only from one article. Only from one article. But here you have 5 variables, no issues. You can get the scales from 5 articles. Why? But remember, to measure the reliability, you have to get the scales from the Moropitia and Pereira. So you can't get 3 from Moropitia, 2 from Pereira. Remember the point. But if you want to measure the assurance, of course, reliability can be measured by using Moropitia scales. Assurance you can measure by using Pereira scales. Okay? You understand? Similarly, all the variables, when you are measuring all the variables, you have to make sure that you are getting the scales from the same article to measure the same variables. Different variables, of course, you can use the different articles, right? So, but to measure this one, you can simply get all this from Parasuruman. Why? It's a highly worldwide accepted model. So you don't have to worry about their genuineness. They are very, very big people in this field, right? Okay, what is the question? The time is the problem. Any reason to use? No. Yes. No. One article means, Mr. Aloka, it's a very good question. Why? So this reliability, so I am telling you have to use from the Moropitia. Assurance, you have to use from the Moropitia or Pereira. It's okay. But to measure the reliability, you have to get only from Moropitia. Why? Why? The reason, Moropitia has got all these from another person, maybe Imran Khan, Miandad, or someone else, right? And so if you took from the Moropitia and Pereira, sometimes you are taking the Moropitia's first 3 and Pereira's second 2. Sometimes Moropitia's first 3 may be equal to Pereira's second 2. I hope it is now very clear. That is why I told you, either you have to get from the Moropitia or Pereira to measure the reliability. But for the assurance, of course, you can get from the different person. Now you very clearly, you asked a very good question, right? Now I very clearly explain. Very good question. Thank you very much. Okay. Now you know how to measure all these things, right? Okay. Right. Thank you very much. And we have another 2 slides and 15 minutes. Okay. Right. Okay. So this is it. So these are the standard scales. I am telling you again the question because then only you can understand. Very clearly, I have written in the yellow color. You have to take from the one article. But that does not mean that all the constructs to be measured by using one article. That's not a case. But in this case, all the constructs were measured by using this Parasuruman article. That's okay because it's an accepted model. So this is for the automobile repair service. This is for the transport service. Again, assurance, 3 questions. See, responsiveness, 2 questions, and like that. Take the statements not as the queen, as the question. Service is excellent. This is the statement, right? Then you are asking the Likert scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Highly dissatisfied to satisfied. So that's it. Finally, so here you can see 3 questions, 2 questions, 2, 3. That means you have to take the average. If you have 5 or 4 questions to measure each and every variable, then no need to get the average. Here in this case, you are getting average. Why? Because you are asking different number of questions to measure the variable. That's it. Okay. So now we are in the final stage. Right. Thank you very much. Now I already discussed how to develop your conceptual framework. I don't have to recap again. I'm extremely sorry. So now how to choose the appropriate statistical test. Please remember, the ladies and the gentlemen, whoever, wherever you live in, whatever the research you do, all of your research coming under one of these tests. Otherwise, you have to be very careful. I can't say anything about that. So when you are reviewing the literature critically, you have to identify what statistical technique they use, and then you have to write in the meta-analysis chart number 4. Finally, you can say that your professor, sir, I am using this technique. Then he is asking, why? there are so many techniques in the world. Why did you select this one? Sir, I selected this technique. Why? Because these people have used this technique more than 10 times. That is why. That is the importance why you are having your meta-analysis number 4. Right. Okay. So now we will have to finish by 10 o'clock. The t-test. What do you mean by t-test? One sample t-test. One sample t-test. Now all these things are very, very straightforward. You can come to our next workshop. All these will be taught in the next workshop. So if you or else you can learn by yourself. That's okay. No issues in that. But I want to tell you, you have to learn these things by going to the workshop or by your own. T-test. One sample t-test means you are having a sample. You won't test that sample whether there's any difference between the national sample. For example, so you are having a school. In that school, the average income of say about average income of average height of one student is about say about 165 centimeters. Okay. Now you want to test that 165 is different than the average height of the entire Sri Lanka. Okay. You understand? That is one sample t-test. That means you are having only one sample, that is your college. Now you are having your college, you are testing the average height of one student. Now you won't test whether that average height of one student of your own college is different than the average height of the entire country in Sri Lanka. That is what is called one sample t-test. Then what do you mean by independent sample t-test? Independent sample t-test means you are having two samples. For example, male, female. You want to test the smoking ability of the men and women. You are having two samples. For that, you can use the independent sample. This is very straightforward by using SPS. Simply, you can learn these things, right? No need to come to my workshops. You can learn by yourself, right? Anyway, you have to learn. Final one, third one, paired sample. What is the meaning of paired sample t-test? So very, very important. For example, your knowledge before today's workshop and your knowledge after workshop. That is, the same sample is tested twice. This is called paired sample t-test, repeated sample t-test, or the dependent sample t-test. Why? The same group of the people are tested twice. For example, government wants to check the income before the poverty elevation, before the what do you call that, development program, and after the development program. If there is a significant difference, then they will continue the development program. If not, they will stop immediately. Why should use the public money for unsuccessful projects? So that is why same sample is tested before and after. That is called paired sample. Very simple in this PS. You are having the same thing. One way otherwise, again, coming close to the independent sample. Independent sample t-test, I told you, you are supposed to test the difference between the smoking ability of the male and female. There are only two categories. But if you want to test the mathematics knowledge of the English medium, Sinhala medium, Tamil medium classes, then you are having three groups. Then you have to go for the one-way ANOVA, right? Very straight, very easy. So remember, so when you are doing your own research, when you are developing your proposal, you should have an idea about what statistical technique you are going to use your data. Otherwise, finally, just don't call me and ask, what is the technique I am going to use? No, I can't answer you. That has to be decided when you are developing your research proposal, right? Okay. So now what is the next one? This is very, very important. Not very important, right? The next one. I have to finish by 10 o'clock now. I'll take 5 minutes more. Testing association means, for example, you won't test the relationship between the smoking and the cancers. You are not going to test the impact. You are just testing the association, the relationship. So for that, you are using the correlation analysis called Carl Pearson and the coefficient test. Remember, the test is that. Correlation, very straightforward. You just collect the data and put into the SPS within the fraction of Second, you will get the answers for each and every things that I already discussed, right? Now you got the next one, testing associations between the one or many other factors, IVs. You have to use the correlation analysis. What is the type of the example? You want to test whether there's any relationship between the smoking and the cancer. You may say that yes, but you can't say like that. You have to do the research. So that's it. Now you come to the most important one, the last one, assessing the impact of one or more factors on another factor. That is something like the factors affecting to the purchasing intention of the hybrid vehicles. That is my research. Definitely, many of you have to do this technique, because I know I got a lot of articles from Dubai or from Bangladesh. They are using this one, but they don't know that they have to use this one. They sent me their conceptual framework. They have to use this one. Now you have to understand. Linear regression, this is for the undergrads, or this is for the masters. PhD students, you have to use for the SPS AMOS or the smart PLS, SAS, STATA, or R. Basically, you are doing by using SPS AMOS and the smart PLS. I have this workshop in the next month. If you can join. I'll be discussing both SPS AMOS, smart PLS, and regression for you to analyze your data. This is what you have to understand. Remember, so all other first t-test, ANOVA, correlation, very important for you, but definitely for doctoral students, you are supposed to analyze your data by using either SPS AMOS, smart PLS, or much higher, not linear regression, not simple list. That's it. Logistic regression, I don't have time. I'm telling you that is coming under binary and ordinary. If your variables are not if your variables are categorical type, you have to go for the binary. That means, for example, you want to test the diabetic person, yes or no. Your dependent variable is a yes or no type, then you have to go for the binary. Ordinal means you are having again more than two dependent categories. For example, brand manager. For example, you want to say test the quality of the brand A, B, C, D. In that kind, you are having the ordinal, but basically, doctoral students, this is for you assessing the impact of one or more factors. One, definitely you are having more, right? So that means like mine, you have to go for the smart PLS or the SPS AMOS, or I recommend you to go for the both. Okay, that's all about. So this is the same thing. I am not going to read it again. The same thing I have already explained you. So just have a look at this one. So okay, thank you very much. And I have no time to recap, because I take from the time all the students are there, right? So I don't have time to recap this session. Just read this one, watch this one, and please ask if you have any doubts. You can WhatsApp me, then I will tell you. No issues. Even for each and every individual, I'll be discussing, right? Okay, that's all about the today's session. And remember, you have to develop your conceptual framework when you're finding your IVs, DVs, not the DV, IV, mediator, moderator. You have to select, you have to identify through the critical literature review, not by your own experience, not as your professor said, not as Priyanta Morapetia said, by using critical literature. When you identify your variables, you have to ensure that there are scales to measure them. Sometimes you can write to the authors, you can send to the emails, and you can get their scale. They will send it to you, right? They are very helpful people. So remember, when you are developing your conceptual framework, you have to concern about these facts, right? So, and finally, when you analyze your data, so most of you guys have to go for the regression, smart PLS, or SPSMOs, especially for the big people. Doctoral students, definitely you have to go there. And when you're developing your research proposal, you should understand what kind of sampling method, what kind of data collection method, and what kind of data analysis method will be used at the time of presenting your proposal. You should know, right? Okay, that's all about the recap session. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? I'm extremely sorry about no special time because we have all discussed some important questions. So thank you very much for your attention. This is a 4 hours long period. I'm very sorry to have 4 hours, but there are a lot of things to be discussed. So that's why I took 4 hours. Okay, thank you very much for being with us, and I hope that we will meet once again. So if you have any questions based on today's presentation, you can text me, you can WhatsApp me. According to my capacity, I'm not a big person. According to my capacity, I will help you especially to develop your conceptual framework. Okay. Thank you very much once again. Have a good night and I wish you a very, very good and academic future. And thank you very much for being with us. Okay. Stay with us until you finish your research. Thank you very much. Good night once again.